entitled cousin ruined his life after a family reunion. My 31M cousin 30M, who I will call Jake, has always considered himself the favorite of all the grandkids, because of how our grandparents would always do stuff specifically with him. The real reason why they only spend time with him is because he lives 5 minutes from them, whereas the rest of us live in different states. Me being the furthest at a 13-hour car ride. None of us know where this entitlement comes from. Even Jake's parents have called him out on his behavior, but it doesn't change. So to the story. My grandma passed away 10 years ago, and my grandpa is getting up in age 92 matters, but still amazingly healthy despite it all. My dad, aunts, and uncles were having some discussions with him leading up to the summer family reunion regarding future funeral costs, making sure his will was up to date, insurance, etc. We get to the reunion this past August, and all is going well until Jake starts to make a comment about how he's totally getting the house in Grandpa's refurbished cars. My grandpa rebuilds old cars with my uncle, Jake's dad. We all ignore him like usual, which seems to upset him, so he decides to prove it to us, and asks Grandpa directly about the will. Grandpa gathers all 9 of the grandkids together and tells us that his major assets, house and cars, will be sold and divided equally among all of us grandkids. Jake lost his shit because, despite years of being told that he loves all of his grandchildren equally, he still believed he was the favorite, and would therefore get most everything from the inheritance. It got even worse when he realized that this included our step-cousin Erin 25F, who, despite being in the family since she was 12, wasn't even a real grandkid, TLDR. This devolved into literally the entire family ganging up on Jake, hurling all kinds of insults at him for the things he said. The reason I'm writing about this now is that I just got off the phone with another of my cousins an hour ago, who told me that Jake was arrested last night for trying to steal one of our grandpa's cars. But since he never once actually helped with those things, the idiot tried to steal one that didn't even work yet. So from what I've heard, Jake is currently sitting in a jail cell with his parents refusing to bail him out, and my grandpa has a meeting with his attorney on Thursday to remove Jake from the will. Sorry if this was all over the place, but this is the basic gist of the drama currently taking place in my family. Edit. Just to clarify, Grandpa had discussed this in advance with all of his kids, my dad, aunts, and uncles, and as everyone is well established in life, they were happy to let the money from the house and car sales go to the grandkids. Everyone will still be getting sentimental items too, of course. Edit 2. None of us know why or where Jake gets his ego from. He's a college graduate, had a great job working for a local mining company. His parents are honestly my favorite aunt and uncle to hang out with. He doesn't do drugs, and he's the kind of guy to nurse a single beer for an hour and call it a night. Comments, commenter 1. When my grandmother died, she had arranged to give $1,000 to each of the grandkids. One of my uncles threw a tantrum because 2 of the cousins were conceived by my uncle in a sperm donor situation. So Tantrum Uncle tried claiming that they didn't count as family. What a fucking turd. Burning bridges over 2,000. Commenter 2. Guess Jake isn't the favorite anymore. What a doofus. Commenter 3. My mom is one of 8. My grandfather used to own a steel company in southern Indiana. Before my grandmother passed, there were already sticky notes on the back of all the furniture claiming it. So funking morbid in my opinion. I live in Metro Atlanta, and all I got was my grandma's old dried-up paints. Whereas my cousins who live in southern Indiana got full bedroom and dining room sets that they later sold. At least I never have to see those people again until someone dies. Commenter 4. If he wants the house, he can buy everyone out, frankly. Most people leave their assets to their children, not their grandchildren. He should be grateful Grandpa loves his grandchildren so much he put them in his will. Grandpa sounds like a great guy. Reply. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually just clarified in an edit that my grandpa had discussed it with all of his kids first, and they were happy to let the sale of the house and cars go to us. Stories number 2. Aita for moving on with my ex after my best friend told me she didn't want me. I 24M have been friends with Chloe, 23F, for 5 years. She's always been there for me, so when she planned to visit me a few months ago, I was excited to finally hang out. Before the trip, she admitted she'd had feelings for me for 3 years. We ended up hooking up while she was here. By the end of the visit, I told her I had real feelings and wanted to see if something could come from it. She told me no, she just wanted to stay friends. I was hurt, but I respected it. A month later, she came back saying she couldn't hide it anymore and wanted to try. We started talking, but it never became a relationship. She was going through family drama, lost her job, bouncing between couches. I even asked if being with me was too much for her right now, and she agreed it was better to stay friends. So I let it go again. I had even planned a trip to fly out and see her for my birthday to see if she was serious. But she canceled on me, twice meanwhile. She was chatting with her old flings, which I didn't care about since she told me we were just friends. Not long after, my ex-22F reached out. We'd ended on okay terms, so we started talking. I told her I wanted to take things slow. Out of respect, I told Chloe immediately. She got mad, ghosted me, then came back still sending flirty messages. At one point, after saying she didn't want a relationship, she texted, "But I miss you in your bed," so I moved forward with my ex. When I mentioned spending time with my ex and her family, Chloe exploded. She accused me of leading her on, said I was choosing someone else over her, then cut me off. The next day she was reposting TikToks like, "When he makes you cry like this," and "Men ain't shit." Thing is, I never lied, never hid anything. I asked her multiple times to clarify what she wanted, and she told me twice she didn't want a relationship. I respected her decision every time. She's the one who flip-flopped, canceled trips, flirted after telling me no, and then got mad when I moved on. So Aita for moving on after she made it clear she didn't want me? TLDR, best friend admitted feelings, but told me twice she didn't want a relationship. Canceled on me twice. Still sent flirty texts like, "I miss you in your bed." I told her immediately when I started talking to my ex again. When I moved on, she blew up and cut me off. Timeline from OOP in comments. While I totally respect your perspective here, I think you might have misunderstood the timeline. Once my ex and I decided to start taking things slow, Chloe was no longer in the picture. Any contact from her after that was her reaching out. I either ignored it, asked why she was contacting me, or heard her out and then respectfully made my stance clear. That's not entertaining, at least not in my book. And just to be clear, the little bit of flirting with Chloe happened before my ex and I agreed to explore things again. Since then, I haven't crossed that line, because to me that would be wrong. My ex knows about the fallout with Chloe, and Chloe knows I've moved on, as I've told her. Relevant commence, commenter on. Chloe don't really want you, dude, reply. I think I got caught up in thinking everything was real BC of how she confessed and everything like that. Wish I saw the signs sooner, commenter 2. This is a joke, right? Not trying to be disrespectful, but She was definitely playing her options out the periods of flirting with you heavy. Then silence. Repeating speaks volumes. She doesn't really like you, my man. Not a good friend either. Forget her. Reply, yeah. I guess I just really believed her when she said she'd had feelings for me all those years. Commenter 3 NTA. She doesn't actually want you. She wants the dopamine rush she gets from the attention from you. Reply, yeah, that stings to hear. But honestly, it explains a lot of her hot and cold behavior. Commenter 4 NTA, my guy. She tried to play you and you treated her like a respectable friend. You were a normal, decent dude and the manipulation didn't work. So she flipped when you moved on. People often get mad when their games don't work on well-adjusted ethical people. Don't sweat it. You did nothing. I would, sadly, let this weird friendship fade away. She'll only show up to create chaos and try to win. Reply, yeah. That hits hard because I really did value the friendship. But I guess all I did was give her room to play games. Final update. Aita for moving on with my ex after my best friend told me she didn't want me, so I didn't expect my original post to blow up the way it did. But thank you to everyone who commented. It actually helped me put a lot in perspective. A lot of you said Chloe just wanted attention and to keep me as a backup, and after this week I can't even argue with that. Here's what went down. A few days ago I'm on my lunch break, literally driving to Culver's, when Chloe calls me out of nowhere. I let it go to voicemail. Against my better judgment I called back and asked if she meant to. She said no. She was actually trying to call another friend whose name is right next to mine. I said no problem. She wished me a good day, and that was that. Except it wasn't. About an hour later she calls again. I ignore it. Text. Another accident? She doesn't answer but then calls me again. This time I picked up, she tells me. I don't like this game. I know I probably hurt your feelings. I'm not mad at you. Just the situation. I said, yeah, I was hurt. She threw away a 5-year friendship over a mess she created and strung me through. She said she understood, then hung up because her mom was calling. Not even 5 minutes later she texts me, says she can't call again but can text, then drops this bomb. When I said I loved you, it wasn't in a friend way. I reminded her that I told her multiple times I had feelings too. And she's the one who wanted things back to normal, and later told me a relationship was too much. I laid it out. She rejected me twice, honestly 3 times if you count, when I asked straight up if we were just friends and she said yes. About a month and a half ago, her reply. I bet you have a whole new girl and never even liked me in the first place. Not true at the time. And I did have feelings for her truly, so I asked, how can she be mad at me for moving on when I was literally doing what she asked me to do? I told her, if anything, we should have kept it at a friendship level to avoid all the mixed signals. She fires back, I don't want to be friends. I asked why she reached out at all. Her answer, because I didn't know if you would ever give it a chance. So I spelled it out clearly. I did give it a chance multiple times. She said no. Thrice told me she didn't want a relationship. Twice canceled trips I planned to see her. At that point, I had no choice but to move on. I told her my decision is final. I've moved on, and I wished her the best. She replied, please no, but I stood firm. Told her I respect her. I wish her well, but I'm not going back. So yeah, this confirmed everything you guys warned me about. She wanted me as an option, not as a choice. And the second I stopped playing along, she couldn't handle it. TLDR, Chloe accidentally called me. Then admitted her I love you wasn't friendly. I reminded her she rejected me thrice, canceled on me twice, and told me we were just friends. When I moved on, she admitted she just wanted to keep the door open, in case. I told her my decision is final and wished her the best. She replied, please no. Relevant comments, commenter 1. Good for you for seeing her for who she is and standing firm. Let her play her games without you. Reply, yeah, I finally see it now. Standing firm was hard, but probably the best decision I've made in a while. Commenter 2, your 20s, so much drama lol. Way to not get sucked into it. Reply. Feels like my 20s are just a crash course in spotting red flags the hard way. Commenter 3. Glad you made sure she texted so you had time to respond, and had it all in writing that she was trying to manipulate you. Reply, right? At this point, my text with her read like a case study in it. Stories number 3. My husband's M32 sabbatical has become pathetic, and IF30 want it to end right now. We're both early 30s, married, no kids, we own a house together. My husband worked for the same company for almost a decade. He earned a good salary, but the last few years were rough on him thanks to his overbearing boss. He discussed quitting every so often, and I was open to the idea as long as he had another job lined up. Well, last year, he quit spur of the moment over a seemingly minor dispute at work. He would later call it the straw that broke the camel's back. No other jobs lined up? Nothing. He assured me that he had savings he could live on, and that he wanted to take some time to recalibrate. He also had a few business ideas he wanted to pursue before getting back into the workforce. Trying to be a supportive partner, I said, okay. Fast forward to today. He has no income and literally hasn't sent out a single job application. He hasn't even updated his resume. What has he been doing these past 8 months, you ask? Smoking weed, a bunch of scammy work-from-home bullshit that hasn't made him a dime, and most recently, trying to become an Instagram influencer. Yes, seriously. To be fair, he has also done some handiwork around the house and fixed up some things. But for the most part, he spends his days smoking weed and dicking around on Instagram, and I'm effectively subsidizing it. We used to split bills 50-50. Now it's more like 80-20. The last time I tried to have a serious talk about his future plans, he jokingly said I could divorce him and pay him alimony if I didn't like the current situation. Then he broke down and wept, saying that he might be depressed. I felt horrible for him and offered him my full support. But in retrospect, I'm curious if it was just a convenient excuse to pivot the conversation and get me off his back. What would you do in my shoes? I have grown resentful of him in this whole situation. Relevant comments, commenter 1. If he thinks he has depression, then he needs to see a doctor and get help. It only gets harder alone. I'd see how that goes first, because it might get him back to his feet. If he declines that and won't change, you can't change him. Reply, that's a whole other issue. He read some book last year and now he doesn't believe in antidepressants or thinks that they're way overprescribed. When he told me he was depressed and I suggested seeing a doctor, he said no, he'll figure it out himself and to just help be there for him. Commenter 2, honestly he sounds more like a punk than a grown man lol. It's one thing to not work if you're a stay-at-home parent, etc. A completely other thing if you're just a lazy bum. Dude's taking advantage of the situation and quite frankly you. Reply, he wasn't always like this. He was responsible and hardworking before he quit. But I agree, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of now. Commenter 3, in your shoes I would get him to undertake a specific plan for job applications. Apply for at least 5 jobs a day, and prove to you that he does so. Alternatively, Immediately enroll into relevant further education, or leave, reply, I thought of this too, giving him tasks and checking in on his progress. But it's not the way our relationship has ever worked, frankly. It sounds like something a parent would do with their child. Not one spouse to another, commenter 4. Trying to become an Instagram influencer, nope, dump him, reply. Honestly, this part is very annoying, and what's caused me to actually seek help with my relationship. His ego and mood are wrapped up in his Instagram thing. It's all he's talked about for weeks now. He'll lose followers after a post and get moody about it. It's pathetic and I've just had enough. Is OP working? Reply, I work full-time. I make a decent income, but if my husband can't contribute anything toward our monthly expenses, I don't make enough to cover them totally myself. Update 1 first. Thanks to all who responded to my prior post. A lot of good advice that has helped me navigate this situation. On the day I made my last post, my husband and I had a talk that night when I got home from work. I basically said he needed to make a doctor's appointment for his mental health, or cut out the marijuana use, or both. He repeatedly refused and actually got a bit hostile about it, which is not like him at all. Then I moved on to finances. I asked him how much of his savings he had left, and all he said was, enough. I pressed him for a dollar figure and he wouldn't answer. I asked if he had a balance on his credit card and he said no. When I asked to see his bank statement to confirm, he basically told me to fuck off. Again, hostile and out of character for him. I told him that the current arrangement wasn't working, and that he'd have to start paying 50% of the bills on March 1st. At this point in the conversation, he completely shut down. He wouldn't even look at me. He just sat looking away from me with tears in his eyes as I talked. I doubt he even heard a word I said, but I clearly stated all the other issues I had. The Instagram stuff, our plans for the future, etc. After this conversation, he stopped sleeping in our bed. For almost a week now, he's slept in the basement. He basically doesn't leave the basement when I'm home, unless it's to get food. Honestly, it's pathetic. I am going out with some colleagues this weekend for a fun night, and my husband can stay home like a hermit. I also have a coffee date planned for Sunday with my best friend. I am going to tell her everything and get her opinion. Because honestly, this isn't the life I want to live, and trying to correct it only made things worse. I am beginning to think of divorce as a real option, which would have seemed outrageous even 3 weeks ago. Thanks again for reading and giving your input. Top comments, commenter 1. He sounds extremely depressed, ashamed and embarrassed of himself. Commenter 2. Your husband is clinically depressed and needs to see a doctor. This is a mental health issue that only gets worse, and the marijuana is a part of the feedback loop. He needs professional treatment as soon as possible. Commenter 3. How long has this marriage been going on? It seems like you're used to everything being 50-50, but it's not how it always is in reality. I'm not saying put up with this shit, but your husband is clearly in a bad place and needs help. The way you explained confronting him about all of this sounds, to him, like an attack. We know it isn't, but it's probably how he felt. And 9 times out of 10 he knows you're 100% right. It sucks to hear the truth. And it also sucks to feel like a complete failure, then be told every way how you're completely failing. Both my fiancé and I felt this way when we had to essentially switch off on taking care of the responsibilities. It was embarrassing having to depend on him, and it was unbelievably embarrassing for him as the man in the relationship. We had countless difficult and emotional talks about this. Again, I'm not saying put up with this because you're married. I'm only commenting because of the fact that you seem to be really focused of this 50-50 thing, and I personally feel like marriage isn't always going to be 50-50. Sometimes it's 49-51, and sometimes it's 8-92. Does he contribute to the household at all? Like, does he cook, clean, do laundry, finish home projects, runs house errands? Or do you also take on those responsibilities? If you're also doing all of this, it's extremely unacceptable, and he is taking advantage of this situation. But again, I'm not telling you to deal with his behavior, just trying to help find a solution. You know your limits better than anybody else. Don't forget that. Commenter 4. If he won't seek help, he's choosing to check out of the marriage. He's turning into a different person, and since he refuses to talk about the credit cards, who knows what he could be doing to your credit, edit? What is OP supposed to do? This has been going on for 8 months, according to her prior post. She can't force him into treatment. You can only involuntarily admit someone if they're currently a danger to themselves or others. If he's hostile to her and refusing help, that's his personal decision. He does retain some accountability here. Update 2. Thanks again to all who responded to my prior thread. even if I didn't agree with the characterization of my relationship by many of the commenters. I did take some advice to heart, though, including not sharing my husband's issues with my friends. My husband continues to sleep in the basement. I asked him a few times to start sleeping in our bed again. He'd say maybe, but never actually do it. We have stopped having sex entirely, but I have heard him watch porn in the basement. On the morning of March 1st, we had a horrible argument when I asked for his half of the monthly bills. He e-transferred me about 2-3 what he should have, and when I asked for the rest he exploded. He just kept saying fuck off louder and louder, over and over as I tried to say that he needed to contribute his fair share. Then he started talking about his depression again. Literally the only time he will up his depression is when I'm criticizing his shitty life choices. He hasn't even seen a doctor or been diagnosed, yet he uses it like a get-out-of-jail-free card to be totally unproductive and not pay bills. So I told him point blank, either see a doctor for your depression and start fixing your life, or this marriage is over. It sounded so harsh, but those are honestly the only two options at this point. He made some quip about me paying him alimony if I divorced him. Not the first time he said this, and that was the last we spoke of it. We have briefly seen and talked to each other since then, but there's no warmth there anymore. It's like we're roommates. Last week he told me he booked a doctor's appointment, and I was happy for him. But as far as I can tell, he never ended up going even after I offered to take the day off and drive him to the appointment. I don't think he's left the house in over 2 months. I have stopped cooking him meals, so he now subsists on instant noodles he bought off Amazon. I met with a divorce lawyer for the first time earlier this week. He was excellent and gave me a comprehensive rundown of all my options. When I told him about my husband's alimony comments, he laughed and said, not a chance. He voluntarily quit his job against my wishes. He has no official diagnosis from a doctor that would preclude him from working. I don't know where he got it in his head that he'd be entitled to alimony from me. I am holding on to a shred of hope that my husband will put forth some kind of effort to get better and repair our relationship. I pray every night that he'll do a complete 180 and start being his normal self again. But if nothing changes, I plan to meet with my lawyer again sometime in early April and officially file for divorce. Top comments. Commenter 1. Your ultimatum was appropriate, but since he's not changing, now you have to carry it through. Commenter 2. You did all that you could. In fact, this might be the best thing for your husband as well. Getting out of the cycle of depression is incredibly difficult without therapy or a drastic change. Losing his wife and having to live alone without an income might just be enough to make him seek help. Commenter 3. I'm sorry about all this. Don't hold out too much hope. Good on you for taking charge. Update 3 first. Thanks to those who left comments in my prior posts. Hearing advice from all angles really helped me make practical, informed decisions during this extremely volatile time in my life. The TLDR version is that we are separated, with plans to divorce in 1 year. I finally got him to see a doctor. I wasn't in the room for the diagnosis, but the doctor suggested my husband look into cognitive behavioral therapy and SSRIs. Of course, my husband was opposed to both. He could read about CBT online, and I've known for a while that he's outright hostile to the idea of taking antidepressants. He describes them as brain warping. We had a week or so in April where things almost felt normal. We talked more, ate dinner together, slept in the same bed together, even had a date movie night. I felt so hopeful. Things truly seemed to be getting better. It didn't last, though. We had a fight about something completely innocuous, and things quickly fell apart again. One day after work, I sat in my car and was completely overcome with dread. The thought of going home to my broken relationship. It was too much. I drove around aimlessly for hours, wondering how in God's name my life had turned out like this. Half the time I was sobbing. I must have looked crazy. This was my breaking point. I was done with the relationship and the marriage for good. When I told him my decision, he wept openly, as did I. He said he was sorry, but that he understood. He didn't ask me to reconsider or make any effort to save the relationship, which tells me it was right decision for both of us. He moved into his parents' basement a few weeks ago. I am still in a rough place emotionally. I pray that time will heal me, and that I'll be able to find love again. Top comments. Commenter 1. It's one thing to have depression, but it's another one entirely to get a diagnosis and then refuse treatment. I'm actually glad he moved back in with his parents, as they can keep an eye on him and make sure he's okay, or as okay as possible. If you're on good terms with them, you may want to tell them some of your concerns about him. Commenter 2. You are both relatively young and have no children. The fact that when you verbalized your decision to divorce, There was no confrontation or mention of attempting reconciliation is telling. Honestly, this is probably the best outcome for both of you. Him living with his parents means that there will be someone looking out for him whilst he sorts out his issues, and you will have the space and freedom to move on with your life. Good luck to you, commenter 3. Sad that it's come to this, but it seems like the natural conclusion for so many relationships. Even in cases where one party does try to become better, the other party ends up checking out at some point and the relationship ends anyway. Your husband is an adult and has made some choices, for better or for worse, and he has to face those consequences. I'm truly sorry your marriage has ended, but I think we can both agree that your future lies down a different path. Stories number 4. Aita for telling my coworker I'm not surprised his wife divorced him. I-20F was recently told by my coworker 40 Menlers that he and his wife 37F were getting divorced. For context, they had just gotten married last year after dating his wife for 10 years. I've worked at this job since I was 16, and this coworker has become my closest work friend, so I was first to know of the engagement, and now of the divorce. We bonded over our shared love of video games. This is relevant, I swear. We both played a lot of games and would talk about the ones we love the most. In the time I've known him, he's loved Final Fantasy XIV, which is an online game you play with other people. He talked about this game and the people he would hang out with in the game constantly, talking about the hours he spends playing it every day. Shortly after he and his wife had gotten married, he started complaining about her and her neediness. When I asked about it, he would say she wanted him to spend time with her instead of playing video games. I had told him at the time that he should be making time for his wife, but he ignored me. Over the next year, he was constantly complaining about her and her neediness, and I would suggest taking some time off of his game to hang out with her. But my idea was always shut down. Eventually, I got fed up with him and asked him to stop bringing it up with me, and he did for about 2 months. That's when he told me about her asking for a divorce. I casually mentioned that I wasn't surprised that she was divorcing him, seeing as he loved Final Fantasy more than her. I didn't really think before I spoke and just said what I had been thinking every time he brought up his relationship problems. He was shocked at my response and seemed taken aback. I continued saying all you ever talk about are video games, and everything you ever told me about your wife was negative. He got very upset with me and complained about it too. Our other coworkers and our boss. We work in a kitchen with only about 10 staff members, so it wasn't too long before everybody knew about what I said. Our boss stayed out of it, not seeing my comment as bad enough to warrant any kind of action. Some of my coworkers around my age who also frequently talked with this coworker took my side, while the older ones took his. It has divided the kitchen staff, and has made it uncomfortable to work with some of my coworkers, who think I'm in the wrong. So, Ida for saying I wasn't surprised about my coworker's divorce. Comments, commenter 1 NTA. Why is a 40-year-old dropping all his relationship drama on a 20-year-old? Was he hoping to get with you if he complained enough? And he's been your closest friend at work since you were 16? That's just all kinds of ick. He is 40 years old and acting like a petulant child, and going to tell on you because he didn't like what you said. I'd limit all my interactions with him because he doesn't take your advice and then narcs on you. You told the truth. He was a shitty husband and his wife left because she deserves better than someone who doesn't meet her needs and complains about her. Sounds like they dated for 10 years and she hoped marriage would cure him and make him a decent partner, and it didn't. OMG. How is this man 40 years old? Commenter 2 NTA, you nailed it. The only mystery is why, after 10 years dating, she didn't realize his first love was FFXV. Isn't the point of dating to learn things like that? Commenter 3 NTA. If you don't want to hear your solicited opinions, don't keep telling PPL your life story unsolicited. Commenter 4. Shocker. His wife got tired of his being an inconsiderate partner. He chose to talk to you about it. So he was basically soliciting your feedback. I think it will die down, but might be wise to distance yourself from this guy. Stories number 5, me 19M. My sister 21F found a video of our mom 45F. She thinks it's of her cheating, but I think it might not be. We can't agree what to do with it. My sister found this video on my mom's laptop. I think she was using her laptop for some school stuff, and she must have gone snooping through her personal files. She found this video. It's from a few years ago according to the date of the file. It's definitely our mom in the video, and it looks to be in some hotel room. There's definitely a man in the video, but he's holding the camera and we don't see his face or hear his voice. I don't want to go into any detail, but it's basically a strip-tease sex tape filmed by the man. So while our mom is clearly identifiable, I can't tell exactly who the man is. I first got angry at my sister for showing it to me. I told her this is gross. I don't want to see that. She told me she thinks it could mean our mom is cheating on our dad, and we should at least present the information to our dad. I told her it's very likely it's him in the photo. You can see the man's hands in a few shots. I think it's my dad. She seems to think it's not him. I told her if we show it to them and it is him, not only will we be embarrassed, but they would be mad at her for snooping. She was like, "Why do you care? I'm the one who did the snooping, so only I'll get in trouble. I'll cover you if they try to get mad at you." I told her there has to be a more sensitive way of approaching the situation. Instead of just bombarding our parents with, "Hey, we saw your sex tape," which could either be with you or mom's secret lover, and we should consider the fallout. However, she seems pretty adamant that she just wants to show them. She thinks it's the safest option, since if she was cheating, she gets exposed. But if it was just dad, then no harm done. We can't agree on what to do, and I have a feeling she might show it to them regardless of what I feel. But if I push hard enough, I might convince her of an alternative solution. Any ideas on what we should do? TLDR, sister found a sex tape involving our mom on the computer. Guy's face is not visible. I think it's dad. Sister thinks it's another man and she's cheating. She wants to confront them with the evidence. But I think we'd be in trouble if we do. And we should find a more sensitive solution to what's going on, if anything is going on. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Dude, is your sister following her intuition? Or does she have a history of stirring up drama? A few years ago, y'all lived with your mom and dad. Of course they'd have to do the freak under wraps. Even if it is some other guy, your parents could be into that. How would you know? After all, your parents don't share their sex lives with you. Which means when it turns out your mom didn't cheat and leave video evidence of her infidelity on her laptop, they're going to feel an incredible invasion of privacy. I say, your sister found the tape. She deals with this mess. This isn't your problem. I agree with you that your mother did not cheat. I mean, come on. Commenter 2. So you watched your parents' whole sex tape to try and identify the man in its hands? I feel like vomit would have overcome me long before the striptease ended. It's very likely your dad. Do not make this the most awkward situation of all of your entire lives. Stay out of it. Well, we watched the whole thing and we don't think these are dad's hands? The fuck? TLDR, please keep this to yourselves for you and your family's own good. Commenter 3, my advice to both of you is, stay out of it. There are a lot of possible explanations for that video. Maybe it's your dad, maybe your mom had an affair, and already got caught and worked things out with your dad, and forgot to delete that video. Maybe your parents are swingers, or have an open relationship. If it's any of those, nothing good will come from bringing this up with your parents. Maybe your mom is engaging in risky behavior that could result in both of your parents contracting an STI, but that seems like the least likely possibility. You really have no compelling reason to believe it's the case. Reply, my parents are definitely not swingers. Commenter 4, why did your sister feel the need to investigate the video in the first place? Has there been anything fishy with your mom in the past? I mean, if you stumble upon someone's private nude video, checking for cheating is not your first natural reaction. You could try to check the date of the file. It's not always accurate, might have been downloaded much later, but it may give you at least some clues. Maybe your parents were away on a holiday trip around that time. This way there's a chance you'll have a reasonable explanation for the sister before she decides to spill it out. Reply, I like the idea of sending it to him anonymously, maybe through email or something. If it's him, no harm done. And he doesn't know it was us. Commenter 5. But if it is him, and you send it anonymously, he'll be freaking out about who has it and how they found it. Reply, okay. What if we go up to him and tell him there's something we need to show him on the laptop? And then while browsing it in front of him, we pretend to stumble on the thing for the first time. We can be like, what is this? If he genuinely doesn't know and says open it to find out, it means he doesn't know about it. If he's like, no, don't click that, it means he knows. Commenter 6. Dude, if you use one of the plans you've put in this thread or confront him with it, please post an update. This is gold. I can't wait until your dad agents an anonymous email with his sex tape and thinks he's being blackmailed. B finds out you have been watching him do the nasty with mom and is crazy embarrassed. Or C, and my favorite option, you pretend to mistakenly find it while showing him something else and the whole family watches mom and dad's sex tape. Cheating women don't keep videos on the family laptop of them stripping and cheating. They're not dudes. And if your mom turns out to be the dumbest cheater ever, then all of this will expose itself soon enough, but she's not, so it won't. But I just want to see the cringe update, so I'm still rooting for C. Reply, no. Here's what my sister and I decided to do. We're going to sit mom and dad down, tell them both at the same time, that while we were using their laptop, we noticed there was a lot of junk and we were cleaning it up to make it run faster. In the process, we accidentally stumbled on this file and mistakenly opened without knowing what it was, but closed as soon as we realized. We won't tell them we watched the whole thing, and we won't tell them we suspect cheating. We'll say that. The reason we're telling them this is because we think they should save the file in a more secure location, or maybe on a separate hard drive or something, so it doesn't get hacked into. If my dad knows about the tape, he'll be like, okay, that makes sense. If he doesn't know about the tape, well, now he would. Final up to me. 19M. My sister 21F. Found a video of our mom 45F. She thinks it's of her cheating, but I think it might not be. We can't agree what to do with it. Yeah, things didn't go so well. Unfortunately, I kept arguing with my sister. I told her if she's so certain they're cheating, the least we could do is ask Dad first if he knows about the tape, but not mention that we've seen it. She was determined that it was cheating. Based on the hands and the feet, she was like, those definitely aren't Dad's. I told her she was creepy as fuck, if that was them in the video, and God knows how many times she's watched it. She was basically watching a video of our mother naked and fucking our dad's dick. Even if it wasn't our dad's dick, it's still fucking gross. She didn't care. I told her if I couldn't stop her, she should at least leave me out of it. I want nothing to do with it. She went nuclear. She went and told them everything, and embarrassed the fuck out of herself. Turned out her little detective work was way off. It was Dad in the video. Our dad was angry but mostly bewildered, but he just laughed it off and got over it. Our mom, however, didn't take it so well. She had a panic attack. She went nuts. She was like, what the hell is wrong with you kids? I tried to stay out of it, but my sister dragged me into it and named me as her accomplice, even though I had warned her against it. Our mom was so hurt and upset. Not only that her daughter would so brazenly accuse her of cheating, but that her children had watched an explicit sex tape of her. She was really traumatized. She couldn't take it anymore. She got up and left to her parents' house, where she's been there for a whole day to recuperate. She only called our dad to speak to. She won't speak to us. Our dad told us to just give it time until she's feeling better. TLDR, nobody was cheating. But my sister fucked up my parents' relationship. Mom is crying now and has gone to stay with her parents. Won't talk to my sister or me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Well, your sister is a shitty detective. Your mom needs time to de-stress. On another note, is that tape no longer in your sister's possession? She seemed to have been obsessed with it. I would remove it from her possession and give it to your father before she does something even more stupid. Commenter 2. Have you talked to your dad and told him everything about you discouraging your sister? Make sure he knows you didn't want anything to do with your sister's shenanigans and ask him to tell your mom that. And when she's ready, you can speak to her directly and apologize on behalf of your sister. Commenter 3. Don't ever leave your sister alone with your computer, or phone, or mail, or journal, or literally anything she could wildly misinterpret. Lesson learned, I guess. Commenter 4. I hope this is a lesson learned for your sister to stay the hell out of other people's business. Sorry you had to be dragged through all of it. Stories number 6. X29F, who dumped me 26M. Because she thought I cheated, now wants to get back in touch. So, right from the start, she's not entirely at fault here. When I was younger, 19, I cheated in one of my relationships. The circumstances don't matter. It could have been handled differently. I cheated, and that's that. Fast forward when I was 23. I met Alice. Alice was an absolute blast. I never really connected to another person like I did with her. We got serious from the second time we saw each other and started dating exclusively straight away. Even though it had been a while since my one and only time of cheating, I still felt like that was something you should disclose to anyone you're getting serious with. I told her about it. She talked, wanted to know more in depth about the situation, but ultimately it didn't matter for her because, in her words, I was a completely different person now. Here's where the trouble starts. Her friends. They were all nice with me in the beginning, but as relationship kept going on, nearing the 1-year mark, they grew kind of standoffish with me. I didn't really feel welcome, or like I was part of the group if Alice and me went out with them somewhere. Then all of a sudden that changed. They were all welcoming to me, really friendly, hanging out and physically affectionate. I'm not that way myself, but I like it when others are that way with me. It shows they care, I guess. One day, Alice's best friend, Samantha, asks me to hang out for a bit. Samantha was someone who was always friendly with me, even during the short period when the others weren't. At one point, I even helped her get through her ex cheating on her, due to her knowing my past and wanting some different perspective on the matter. Anyway, I'm out with Samantha in the local park, just talking and waiting patiently to tell me what's wrong. Instead, she plants a kiss on me, and it's pretty intense. She grabbed me by the face and just tried to shove her tongue in my mouth. I pushed her off almost instantly. She starts saying she's sorry, that she didn't mean this to happen, etc. and so on, and quickly excuses herself and leaves. Meanwhile, I'm completely at a loss what happened, and I don't call Alice straight away. I'm still kind of in shock. When I do end up calling Alice, I find out Samantha already called her and told her what happened. Except not really. According to Samantha, I'm the one who kissed her first and started making out before she put a stop to things. Cue a lot of drama, a lot of name-calling, a lot of begging on my part to be believed. But it didn't work. Alice and me were history. None of the people from her group of friends are even answering my calls or messages. I just wanted to know why this all happened. I don't get that. I don't get answers or closures. My girlfriend didn't believe me. She didn't even break up with me in person. It was over a phone call, so I sunk into a depression. No surprise. Couple of friends stuck by me, helped me get through. But for more than 2 years now, I have avoided any chance to new people, or if someone expressed an interest in me, I would just ignore it. I got an email yesterday from Alice. It's still here sitting on my screen. It starts off with a million apologies, because she found out the truth about what really happened on recently. The whole thing with Samantha was premeditated. The whole fucking friend group was in on it. They didn't like that Alice and I were getting serious, that we were talking about moving in together after being together for less than a year. Samantha decided to be the one to kiss me, because apparently I seemingly clicked the best with her out of all of them, and the cheating thing would be most believable that way. The others backed up her stories about how close we were at the group meetups. Yeah, I know, it's so fucked up. Alice has only found out about this a week ago from one of the people who had a falling out with the rest of the group, and on their way out, they wanted to blow up the whole thing with every dirty little secret they had. She tells me she hasn't dated anyone since we broke up. She didn't have the will to try again after our relationship. She just studied and worked and hung out with her friends. After she found out the truth, she says she cried for days because she really did love me. Even after the breakup, because a part of her couldn't believe it happened, the cheating. She's begging me get together with her, even if only for just some closure. Just for one date where she can apologize in person. I haven't responded yet, because I don't know what to say. For a year or more after the breakup, I fucking dreamed of this happening. Her finding out the truth. Us coming back together better than ever. But now there's nothing. My heart didn't skip a beat. I don't feel anxiety or anticipation of any sort that might happen due to meeting her. To put it short, I don't know what to do. Do I agree to her request about meeting up? And if so, do I end up giving us two a go again? I'm not sure if I could. I'm not sure if I feel anything anymore for her. My best friend says that might be me just preemptively protecting myself from more hurt. But I don't know. TLDR. Girlfriend was tricked into thinking I cheated on her by her best friend, and the rest of the friend group was in on it. This was believable due to one instance of cheating when I was younger. Got broken up over the phone. Out of contact for more than 2 years now. But now the ex-girlfriend found out the truth of things and wants to meet up and talk about things with me. Do I meet up with her, or do I just say thank you for the apology and move on with my life? Do I even try to get together with her if I do end up meeting with her? Relevant comments. Commenter 1 OP. I think you ought to meet at least once. Give her a chance to apologize in person. See if the spark is still there. If you don't, you will always wonder, but be wary. She says she's sorry. She says she's cut her friends off and has nothing to do with them. Well, talk is cheap, remember? She was friends with them for years. She may be just as toxic as they are. Reply. She may be just as toxic as they are. How do I recognize if this is true or not? Commenter 2. For starters, I would check whether or not she still talks with said friend group. Only if she no longer speaks to them would I consider going back to her. But those are my thoughts. Commenter 3, I'm conflicted on this. On one hand, she chose to believe her collective group of friends before ever hearing your side of things. But then again, if you were in a similar position, and the majority of the people you trusted told you a harsh truth about your SO, would you not believe them for having your back? It's been 2 years after the fact. You closed yourself off due to this. She claims to have done the same thing. Maybe that's true. I honestly don't know. If you feel nothing, you may consider meeting her. You don't really have anything to lose. I might suggest something different if you weren't so detached from dating. But seeing her might give you a sense of closure in order to either move on or give what could have been another shot. I also suggest seeing if her claims of not seeing anyone in between are true. You were broken up, so she was technically free to do her thing. But considering the circumstances of your breakup, you may feel different if you choose to give it another shot and find out she lied about seeing other people. Reply. But then again, if you were in a similar position and the majority of the people you trusted told you a harsh truth about your SO, would you not believe them for having your back? I forgot to say that all of them are her childhood friends. People she's known for more than 20 years. It's not that I found her believing them over me to be implausible. I guess I just wished she'd have trusted my version of the story. Commenter 4. She is just as much of a victim as you are in this scenario. The question is whether any feelings remain after all the drama. Update, I decided to give my ex-girlfriend that one meetup. For her sake, I honestly wasn't expecting to gain anything myself from this, but I still remembered how much I cared for her. So I figured I could do this one thing, and we could both move on with our lives. Meeting her in person, though, that was a whole different thing. I don't know how to describe this feeling, but it was quite like anticipation. Like when you're just expecting something to happen, and don't know if it's good or bad. Now that I look back on it, I know I was hoping for good. We talked a great deal when we met and ended up staying out for hours. A great deal of it was her sincerely apologizing for not believing me and breaking up with me over the phone without even giving me a chance. But in truth, I couldn't blame her and told her as much. Since these were all people she grew up with, she didn't really have a reason to not believe them, since they never did this sort of thing before. This was followed by some shit talking of her former friends. That was kinda nice, and we ended up having a few laughs over it. Even though I could tell she was sad by what happened. She's only got 2 friends now, an older woman from her workplace and a girl her age from a hobby workshop. They seem to be good for her, from what she's saying, but she admits that occasionally she misses what she had with her previous friends, if not the people themselves. I really did end up feeling better from that one talk, and when the time came to go our separate ways, she asked me if I would be open to talking with her more in the future. Alice was upfront about her hoping that there might still be something between us in the future, but she wasn't pushy about it. Anyway, told her I wouldn't know, but also told her to just talk when she feels like it and I might or might not reply. Exchanged numbers, and that was it for the day. Without dragging this out any further, we started dating again. Talking ended up bringing back how I used to feel about her, but I was holding back for a lot of the time and she was very patient with me. Never tried to push too much. Never tried to just pick up from where we ended. It's basically dating like we've never dated with each other. In some way, not sure if I can describe it properly. English isn't my first language. I guess it's got that good part of where you're getting to know someone and actually enjoying doing so. A lot of talk about trust has been had. Just a few days back was when, after a night out, she invited me to her place. I knew what this was about, obviously, but I wasn't 100% sure. I guess I was just being cautious on some level. Alice seemed to sense it, and let me off with some words of how I might need some rest for work in the morning. So she'd understand. I can't really tell you how that made me feel exactly, but it just shows me she cared. She cares, and I went up with her, and it was something I really fucking missed. It's not just 2 people together. It's her and me together, so yeah, we're together. We're dating and we're taking it a bit slowly, but I'm happy and she's happy and things are good. TLDR, we met, talked a lot, then talked some more after that. Started dating again and I'm happy. Stories number 7. I told my best friend's fiancé she was cheating on him. I was her maid of honor. My best friend, 28F, was getting married in 2 weeks. We've known each other since high school. I was her maid of honor, and I thought I knew everything about her. Then she told me, not even in confidence, just casually, that she had been sleeping with one of her co-workers for months. She said it didn't mean anything and she'd stop after the wedding. I couldn't keep it in, I told her fiancé. He broke down completely. The wedding is off, her family is furious, and she's blocked me everywhere. Everyone says I betrayed her, but I couldn't stand there and pretend. I didn't want to make a speech about forever, knowing she was lying through her teeth. Now I'm sitting here with no best friend, no closure, and this crushing guilt that maybe I should have just stayed out of it. Comments, commenter 1 no. You did the right thing. If he was so crushed by that, then it wasn't no big deal like your friend claimed. It sounds like you have a group of horrible friends too. If they're saying you betrayed her, none of them seem to care about hurting a man like the fiancé. And if she thinks it wasn't a big deal now, she was going to do it again after being married. A cheater always cheats again. Commenter 2, claiming she'd stop after the wedding was likely a lie. I'd tell her fiancé too. Commenter 3, damn no. You did right, IMO. It hurts now, but truth bombs usually do. She was playing with dude's life. False forever promises ain't cool. You chose integrity over deceit. Always respect for that. Stay strong. Karma works in mysterious ways, my dude. Good vibes your way. Commenter 4, no, you did the right thing. There's almost no chance she would have stopped after the wedding. And there would be a much messier, nastier falling apart later, possibly with poor innocent children involved. Not to mention all the effort the poor man would have wasted on an unfaithful woman. And as far as losing a best friend, would you really want a person like that in your life at such a close place? How long before she betrays you? Loss is loss and it hurts. You did lose something. But she is the one who destroyed her life with her greedy vaj. Stories number 8. My mom and stepdad said I'm making a big deal out of sharing a room on vacation, and I should still consider it a vacation for me, Aita. I'm 16M in a blended family. My mom and dad had me. Dad died and mom remarried when I was 8. My stepdad's ex-wife walked out on him, and my stepbrothers 12 and 10 meters, because she couldn't handle their oldest having special needs. At home I share a room with my Jaden 12. He has developmental delays that cause him to remain more like a younger child than a 12-year-old. He's not independent. He can be clingy like a younger kid, and he needs someone with him when he sleeps, because he gets so scared and he wakes up. He's also a really big talker and keeps me up some nights. My stepbrothers don't get along, so he was put in with me to keep the peace. I don't really like sharing a room with him. I told my mom and my stepdad this before. They told me they understand, but we only have 2 bedrooms for the 3 of us, and it's more harmonious and better for him if he's not with someone who gets so annoyed they treat him badly like Camden 10 does. For the most part, I try to make the most of it. I got a divider put in our room a couple of years ago, and it helps me feel like I have some space, but it gets tiring when he wakes me up in the middle of the night or he wants to cuddle with me. I don't let him into my bed. My stepdad helps enforce that, because he knows I would sleep on the couch if my bed was taken over, and then my stepbrother would scream the whole house awake. We don't go on vacations ever, because Jaden has a lot of therapies that cost so much money, and we have stuff at home to help soothe him. And those are expensive, and they cost a lot to keep running according to my mom. We did go on vacation this summer and I was supposed to get my own room this time. But when we got there, that didn't happen. To make it worse, I didn't even have a bed because there was only one queen-size bed in the room. I did have my sleeping bag with me, so I slept in that, but I had to sleep on stuff on my sleeping bag so Jaden would know I was in there. I hated the whole vacation, and my mom told me it wasn't meant to be that way. But it was better than Jaden and Camden fighting for 10 whole days. By day 2, I was over it, and it wasn't a vacation to or for me, or however I should be saying that. It was their vacation, but I didn't relax or a break from the typical stuff. I still had to think of Jaden and only Jaden. I told both sets of my grandparents and my aunts and uncles when they asked about it. I told cousins. I didn't pretend I had fun or loved it. My mom's parents asked her why I had to make more sacrifices, and they told her she really needs to figure out better stuff for me. Both sets of grandparents offered to let me spend more time with them, as in overnights, or move in. My mom and stepdad said that wasn't needed and asked why I'd leave my family. My dad's parents said I shouldn't be forced to play caretaker at night. And clearly they can't afford to give me the privacy and space a 16-year-old needs. Once enough of my extended family told my mom and stepdad this stuff, they both accused me of making a big deal out of it. They said it was a vacation, even if it wasn't the one I wanted, and I should consider it one, because I got away from our house for 10 days and got new experiences. Except I didn't, because we're limited in stuff we can all do as a family because of Jaden. My mom and stepdad are still mad about how I see the vacation, but it was ruined for me with everything that happened. I'm not exaggerating or lying about it. I didn't have fun like I expected because I didn't even get to be comfortable at night. Comments? Commenter 1, NTA. You should not be sharing a room as a caretaker of your stepbrother on a regular basis to begin with. You are not his parent. Reply. My grandparents all told my mom and stepdad the same thing, but they say it's not like that even though it actually is. The only reason it needs to be me is because he needs to be comforted by someone's presence, and sometimes soothed at night. That's not supposed to be my job, but it is, and I can sorta live with it. But on vacation, I wanted a break from that, and I didn't get one. Commenter 2 enter. You can ask your dad's parents if they would support you moving in with them. You shouldn't have to be your stepbrother's emotional support animal. Tell your mom you want to move out to anywhere else. Her desire for a man in her life should not result in you having to provide support service to stepbrother. They need to start making other arrangements for him. Reply. My mom isn't going to agree to me moving out. She doesn't think it's right for a kid to leave their parents while still minors. I'm technically a minor and she's my parent. She argued that with my grandparents, even though I told them I would love to live with them and get some space from all of this, it would feel more like a vacation than the one I actually went on. Commenter 3. Every time he wakes you up, go wake them up and tell them he needs them. Every single time, every time he wakes you up, go sleep on the couch. Let him scream the house down. If you have to be awake, damn it, the whole damn household can be awake. It is not your job to comfort and pacify your stepdad's child. If it means you fall asleep in class and have to inform the school you're being woken up repeatedly, due to being forced to share a room with and to comfort your stepbrother, do it. Shout it from the rooftops, until your parents get the message you are in fact not your stepbrother's keeper. Commenter 4. Have they thought about what they are going to do when you go to uni? Or are they expecting you to give up your life for Jaden? My daughter has developmental delays. She didn't sleep through the night till she was 15, but she never disturbed her sisters. She always came into me. Your stepfather should be dealing with his son, not you. Is there a relative you can move in with until you finish school? Disturbed sleep will impact your exams and your mental health. And it sounds like your stepfather and mom are setting you up to become Jaden's full-time carer. This is absolutely unacceptable. I would even go so far as to say that this is abuse. Stories number 9. IF28 found a child's shirt in the belongings of my fiancé M33. I'm sorry if this is long and all over the place. I met my fiancé when we dated as kids in middle school. We reconnected about 2 years ago after living life separately and meshed so well that we decided to just take the jump. His family lives in Texas. We originally lived in Minnesota with his mother not doing well, so we moved down here to be close. My fiancé has a 2-bedroom that he'd purchased when he first learned of his mother's condition. This was about a year ago. At first, after we realized we wanted things long-term, he would fly back and forth every couple weeks or so until I asked him to just stay with me. He had no intention of moving back, and it was kinda a, you move here or we do long-distance situation. He did not explicitly tell me that, but that is just what I gathered from our situation. After time of thinking, I quit my job and just moved to be with him. I have been here officially for 40 days. Just a bit of backstory, when looking for something in the garage last week, I found a pair of baby-sized Nike shoes. I asked him who they belonged to and he said he had no idea. I thought nothing of it at the time and just tossed them. 2 days ago, when going through the hamper to do our laundry, I found a small pink bluey t-shirt. Probably the size of a 5 or 6-year-old. I immediately remembered the shoes and my mind started to race. I admit I assumed the worst, that he's hiding a kid from me, and blew up a bit. Accused him of lying to me. I started to get emotional and things of that nature. And an argument ensued after I didn't believe him when he swore he had no idea where these things are from. He is an only child, so no nieces. The only family he really talks to here are his parents. He offered no explanation other than simply insisting he has no idea. I pretty much shut down after realizing we were getting nowhere and have spoken maybe 10 words to him since then. He is not pushing me to either. Feels like I am just here. Since yesterday I am just filled with despair and regret about moving here. And I'm not even sure if I should be. I guess I'm just curious how I can go about this. The mere thought of apologizing for my blow-up and trying to rectify things when he is secretly lying to me about something like that just makes my stomach churn. I don't at all hope or even want to believe that is the case. He has never given me any reason to feel like this, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. Comments. Commenter 1. I think it makes a big difference whether his attitude is, I don't know where these things came from. You should just forget about it. Versus, I don't know where these things came from. I agree, it seems really weird. Let's try to figure it out. Commenter 2. Not sure how you dated in middle school when he's 5 years older than you. You likely wouldn't have even been in high school at the same time at all, much less middle school. Commenter 3. You've now found baby shoes and a shirt for a small child, maybe 5 or 6. They were in his garage and in his laundry. The laundry especially is suspect, because that is constantly moving and refilling. Does he think these items just magically appeared? There's maybe 1 child, or 2, and my first thought was that there's a baby mama out there who is leaving evidence for you to find. You know how some women leave earrings in the bed, or underwear behind so the man's wife can find it? That's what I thought of with this. So what is he going to do about this? What are you going to do about it? I don't know if it will work, but you can search birth records online. You might have to pay though. Sites like Ancestry and MyHeritage have birth records, and you don't have to have all the info like birth dates, update. IF28 found a child's shirt in the belongings of my fiancé M33. Not sure I'm formatting this right, but just wanted to update for those still messaging me and commenting. This is probably anticlimactic for most of you, and in hindsight may be obvious, but please refrain from the negativity or "I told you so's" in the comments. Trust me, I have beaten myself up enough. Nothing can be said that I haven't thought to myself already. Someone here suggested I suggest getting cameras to him and gauge his reaction. Thank you so much if reading. I lost you in the sea of comments, lol. He was very against it and jumped to the conclusion I was trying to catch him in something. A reaction that took me by surprise. After that I said fuck it and went through his phone. Another popular suggestion. Something neither of us had done since knowing each other. So I'd watched him put in the code from the corner of my eye and then went through it when he slept. Found a woman he's been answering calls from while he's working maybe every other day. After my hand stopped shaking, I called from my phone and asked who she is. She asks me who I am and I tell her I'm his fiancé. She tells me she's the mother of his kids and that he's a father of 2 boys and a girl, 10, 7, and 5 years old. That they met in college and have been on and off since then, but they are currently just co-parenting. An obvious lie. She then tells me she was told about me and he'd said I was pregnant and pretty much moved here at random against his will. That I was just a crazy one-night stand while they were on break and he was just trying to co-parent, basically playing this role of the heroic father to a fake baby trying to do right, when in reality he's just a psychotic POS. She seemed more relieved I wasn't pregnant than anything. But that is her issue. Told her about the shirt and she'd said her kids spent the weekend. Another lie because no one has even been here since I've moved in. Didn't even seem to care he hid his own children from a woman he was going to marry. Anyway, he doesn't know, but I'm leaving. I'll be using my little savings to get home and stay at a motel until I'm on my feet again. Thankfully, when I left, my boss said I was always welcome back. My flight is in 2 days. Also, probably shouldn't have, but I broke his phone too and said I accidentally spilled water on it because about an hour after I called the girl, she texted him, "Call me," and I panicked. I assume she plans to tell him that I know even though I asked her not to. It hurts, and I've been evaluating everything thus far, every conversation we've had, every little piece that hasn't added up. One thing I will say, although he never begged me to move or anything, we did have numerous convos about the possibility, and a month before I moved here, he acted so excited, and even sent me a bunch of job listings in the area. I definitely did not stalk him at all, but he clearly wants his baby mama if he's concocted this whole psycho fairy tale to sell her, so I'm honestly and truly done. Just trying to remain calm and sane until I'm up and out of his life for good. This whole time he hasn't even asked why I'm not talking to him either. Thankfully IG, because I wouldn't know what to say. And I know he's a garbage parasite, but that just hurts me even more. It's like I really was just nothing this whole time. Uprooted my whole life literally for nothing more than a singular month of playing wife. Now to pick up the pieces and repair them all on my own, while his life stays unchanged and he's happy with his family. So yeah, this was probably more of a vent, but at least you guys can stop wondering. This has all happened within the last 48 hours, so I'm still collecting myself emotionally. I do appreciate all the support and advice. And to any women currently feeling like something isn't adding up, please trust your gut the first time. Ignoring it will never work out in favor of the relationship. Comments. Commenter 1 reply, "I'm so sorry, Shiite, but at least you found out before a wedding. But look at it as your new start and future awaits. Onwards and upwards. Good luck." OP reply, "Thanks a lot. You are absolutely right. Onwards, up and upwards indeed." Commenter 1 reply, "Girl, I'm so proud of you. I read and commented on your original post, but TBH I didn't think you would listen to any of us BC. It was clear you really cared about him, and understandably wanted him to be innocent. But I'm pleasantly surprised, and you should be really proud of yourself for trusting your instincts and avoiding marriage to a con artist. I don't even think the details or his reasons matter. I think you're doing the exact right thing by picking up and leaving without some big confrontation. You'll save yourself a world of hassle by doing it this way. And a whole lot of lies and gaslighting and God knows what else he'd throw at you. I know it hurts right now, but you're handling it beautifully. Just hold on to the shock-induced numbness until you get safely back to your home state. Then you can drop your guard and grieve the relationship. Right now, your safety in getting out of there is your top priority. You've just discovered that you do not know this man at all. Stay smart, you're doing an awesome job. And get home safe. Reply, thank you so much. I could cry right now, I really needed to read this. Commenter 2. She might be lying about everything. He's not innocent, however, as he knows precisely what's going on and is hiding it and lying. Reply, yeah, all I really care about is him hiding 3 kids from me. I can see her lying about the co-parenting and stuff, but I wouldn't want to be with him regardless. Could never trust him again. Commenter 3. Not the same, but similar. I uprooted my life and moved to be with a guy. After 6 months, I found out he had a kid that he just forgot to tell me about. The ex-GF messaged me because he wasn't paying child support. He had this whole sob story about how she wouldn't let him see his kid and she was abusive. I was dumb and in too deep, so I stayed. Huge mistake. He lied about so much I honestly thought I was going crazy. Once they know they can get away with it, they will continue to lie and cheat and manipulate. I'm so proud of you for leaving, Leave, and never look back. This kind of person will never change. Best of luck to you. I wish I'd left as soon as I found out, but leaving was the best decision I ever made. Stay strong. You've got this. Reply, thank you for this. So sorry you experienced that. It's awful, but this comment has given me much reassurance. Commenter 4. Whoa, OP, I'm so sorry, this is a lot. So they are not together as he lives separately? She says they are on a break, but he owns another property that he's living in it currently? How far away do his kids live? She sounds like she's not entirely truthful as well. I wonder how long he thought he could go on hiding them from you now that you're living together. Reply, thanks a lot. Yes, I get the feeling she's lying as well, but that is their prerogative. Any woman okay with her kid's dad living a double life to this extent is probably crazy too. They deserve each other. Commenter 4. Reply, but are they actually together anymore? They could really be broken up and she can't let go. But then, it sounds like a super toxic relationship, and I doubt you want to be anywhere near that dumpster fire. And I guess it doesn't really matter as he lied to you about having 3 kids. Stories number 10. Me 34F setting firm boundaries with my husband. 34M may mean the end of my marriage. What should I do? I've been married to a smart, sexy, witty, wonderful man for 5 years. Dated him for 6 years prior to that, and known him as a friend for 5 years before that. He has been a part of my life for so long it's hard to remember what my life was like before he was in it in some capacity. I love him dearly, and I love the life we've built together. He doesn't handle his frustration or anger or insecurities well. He has a lot of trust issues despite the fact that I haven't done anything to merit distrust, which he will acknowledge. His trust issues stem from legitimate childhood trauma, and will frequently presume worst intentions. Sometimes he might see something small, and his brain will draw conclusions like, wife hasn't put the dishes away even though I never asked it, and there are plenty of times I don't put dishes away, therefore she doesn't respect me or prioritize our relationship. Frequently in arguments, his feelings will take precedence over my own. I do my very best to listen to his feelings and empathize with them, but in the heat of the moment very frequently my own feelings become things for him to react to rather than listen to. And thus the discussion about his feelings continue, while mine never get addressed. We've been in couples counseling for years now. Originally it was more of a maintenance thing, but over the past year it has become critically necessary. My husband sunk into a really deep depression last spring, and last summer was honestly pretty hellish for both of us. He'd find fault in the smallest of slights like, she asked me a question via IM but there's red receipt so clearly she didn't care about my answer and doesn't care about me. When I actually had seen the answer, and it didn't mark a red receipt because I only looked at it through my phone's notifications, and then stopped talking to me for multiple days on end except for practical house questions via IM. He'd send passive-aggressive and manipulative messages while I was out to get me to come home. Though he doesn't intend for them to be manipulative. They definitely fit the definition by any reasonable standard. If things are very extreme, he may scream in my face or knock something over. In previous years, he has punched the wall before. or lightly pushed me out of the way in an argument so he could get past me. I did a lot of supporting him emotionally and often financially when he would let me. If he's stressed, I'll try to do some housework to take something off his plate, or offer to pick up food he likes, or we'll cuddle together and watch something he likes that I don't really care about. I'll hold him while he cries, I'll pick up the slack, and I don't hold resentment about it. That's what partners do. But in the last few months, I've been going through a depression of my own. I don't lash out, but sometimes I get really sad and desperately need support. And it feels like when he's able to offer support, it very frequently comes back to haunt me later. For example, me feeling sad, him offering to pick up my favorite pizza, and me taking him up on it, only for him to send me messages about how stressful and frustrating it is because the pizza wasn't ready in time, and the other customers are being jerks, and by the time he gets home he's done and can't be near anyone for a while. Most recently I was having a really bad day, and he was there for me, held me while I cried, did some housework, talked me through some things. And that evening I was starting to feel a little stable, and out of nowhere he hit me with some passive-aggressive comments and started talking about how his needs, which he had not communicated to me, hadn't been met all day, and how I don't meet his needs in other ways, and how I prioritize everyone else in my life but not him. And I was floored and devastated, because I do prioritize him, probably more than I prioritize myself, which I'm trying to change since that isn't healthy. I think about what he wants or needs or might think of something practically all the time. But also, it was one more example of how I can't truly lean on him. I can't trust that he'll be able to support me emotionally even when he says he can. Later that same night our basement flooded, and he found it first. All I heard was slamming doors and yelling. So I went downstairs to check, and when I asked what was going on, he screamed at me basically in my face, "What the fuck do you think?" Y'all, I'm bad at boundaries. I'm really bad at them. I'm always afraid people will be mad at me, or leave me when I set them, and I have plenty of real examples to back up that fear. So it's not exactly unwarranted. Over the summer, during therapy, I set some explicit boundaries of things that were not okay in arguments. Things like screaming, throwing things, passive-aggressive comments, etc. I've tried, since setting those boundaries, to make it known when they were crossed, saying ouch, or that wasn't an okay thing to say, or I need to leave the room until we can discuss this calmly. Every inch of enforced boundaries has been painful and really hard, but I'm trying. But the screaming, and especially right after the day of supporting me, and then lashing out at me without warning after, was one thing too many. We're in a crisis right now because, among other things, I've set a firm boundary around the screaming. It can't ever happen again. It just can't. Some people in my life who have been in abusive relationships have pointed out to me that screaming in someone's face is abusive and violent, even if it's not physical violence. But when I speak to my husband about it, he feels that setting this boundary is setting him and our relationship up to fail. He doesn't feel like he can guarantee he won't do it again, and that if this is truly a hard boundary for me, that we should end our relationship. He knows the way he's been treating me is not okay. He feels remorse for treating me that way. I know that I'm not perfect, and I have work to do of my own, among other things. Setting and enforcing boundaries, and untwisting myself from the pretzel shape I've become to accommodate my husband's needs, wants. And in this list of problems, I haven't mentioned all of the good things. As with any post like this, there are amazing, positive things in our relationship too. We share values, politically and personally. We play video games together and travel together and have fun together and care deeply about each other. He can be so kind and lovely. He's passionate about doing good and helping other people. Is it reasonable for me to have this hard boundary? Obviously, with or without that particular boundary, we are really struggling right now and may or may not be able to make this work. I keep thinking, if the boundary was, you can never hit me again, instead of, you can never scream in my face again, no one would think that was an unreasonable boundary. Even if the hitting happened rarely as the screaming has, it seems to me that if someone can't guarantee they'll be able to manage their anger enough to not scream in someone's face, anger management therapy might be necessary, and I don't mean this flippantly. He apparently found out recently that he also has high blood pressure, so this seems like a potential health issue as well. I brought this up as an option and got no response. I don't want my marriage to end. I didn't say those vows lightly. The idea of breaking up this relationship feels like I'm being torn apart. But I can't stay with things the way they are. I can't. And it feels like he's saying things are not going to change quickly. That he wants to change, but it's going to be a journey. I don't know what to do. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You're already in counseling. What does your counselor say about all of this? Do they think your boundaries of not being verbally abused are reasonable? Hint. They are. Also, he's punched walls, which is a huge red flag. You mentioned his childhood trauma. What is he doing to address that? You mentioned depression. Is there a diagnosis? What's his treatment plan? Does he have meds? A therapist or other mental health professional he sees outside of your couple's counselor? You can't set yourself on fire to keep him warm. I think you know the answer I want to give you. Google sunk cost fallacy. Reply. He's going to personal therapy as well. Things got much better for a few months when he started taking meds for his depression for the first time around September, I think. But then we moved, and the stress of the move plus seasonal affective disorder and trauma around the holidays made things get bad for him again. Which made things get bad for us again. When he's not depressed or extremely stressed, he's able to handle conflict in a mature and healthy way. But that's not good enough. Because there's always going to be stuff that's stressful and hard. Commenter 2. Your hard boundary is reasonable. Does he scream and punch walls at work? I'm guessing not. If he can control himself at work, there's no reason he can't control himself at home. Reply. He doesn't. But he has trouble concealing his emotions even at work or around other people. If he's frustrated or impatient, everyone knows it because of his tone or the fast, clipped way he'll speak. OP needs to get therapy. Does she have a diagnosis, a treatment plan, etc.? Reply. I am seeing my own therapist. Yes. I've been referred to a psychiatrist just to talk and see if medication might make sense, but haven't made an appointment yet. Mostly because it was very recent and this immediate crisis plus some travel and work, etc., has been taking up all of my energy and attention. Did OP and her husband set up the boundaries altogether? Reply. We didn't work together to set that boundary. No, I set it on my own. It's hard to tell what our therapist thinks is a reasonable boundary. That said, he said a few times that he wants to stop, but he can't just stop, and that it will take time. And our therapist has disagreed and said he can just stop, as someone who themselves has been in the same position as him before. And then he asks, okay, but no one will tell me how to just stop. And that seems to be the sticking point. He doesn't feel like he knows how. And the advice his therapist and our therapist and others are giving him doesn't feel like it's enough or it's going to help. And like the question of is this a hard boundary for me, I feel like it needs to be. Like I said, I'm terrible at setting boundaries because I don't have a good sense of what is a reasonable boundary to set. And I worry that setting boundaries will cause people to leave. So a part of me wants to say no, that it isn't a hard boundary. But I also remember how I felt the night he screamed and I was done. I felt so done. And I feel like we're already on such shaky ground that, I don't know, the boundary may not be a thing I'm setting, but maybe a thing I'm recognizing to be true. Because I don't know if we could even possibly survive him yelling at me again. I feel like my trust in him and our relationship is so damaged right now. But I don't want our marriage to end. I really truly don't. Commenter 3. That doesn't sound like a smart, sexy, witty, wonderful man to me. Reply. I mean, all of the things I wrote in my post are true. It's also true that he has a lot of really positive, amazing qualities. People aren't all good or all bad. I didn't spend paragraphs talking about how he worked a full-time job while going to school full-time and got great grades. I didn't tell you how he moved across the country to be with me, which is an enormously scary and difficult thing to do. I didn't tell you about all of the nights we've spent laughing and talking until way too late, and spent the next morning tired but feeling like it was worth it. Or how he has this amazing talent for creating parody lyrics to songs on the fly, and how we'll sing them together. How when I'm sad he'll make ridiculous jokes to cheer me up and it totally works. How I've seen him grow and change as a person in the most amazing ways, and how he's helped me to grow as well. I haven't told you any of that, and all of that is true too. I do get that someone can be all of those amazing things and still not be a good partner or be treating me poorly. But that doesn't negate the good things either. If things have improved, why did OP's husband stop taking meds? Reply. He hasn't stopped. They're just not as effective as they were when he first started. My husband told the psych that they aren't working as well, but the psych apparently doesn't want to up the prescription until he tries exercise and some other stuff first. Any chances that OP and her husband are poly? Reply. My husband and I are, actually, poly. I just didn't mention it because it's not relevant to the problems we're having, and I worried it would color the advice I'm getting. Commenter 4. How does he treat his other partners? Reply. He's not seeing anyone seriously right now. He had a really serious girlfriend for a while who I adored, and they broke up because she tried to set some boundaries for herself, and as a result he felt like she couldn't support him the way he needed right then. They're still friends though. I guarantee she never saw the worst of it. But that may be at least in part because they weren't live-in partners, OP on her flaws in her marriage. Reply: I have plenty of flaws, as does everyone. I'm sure my husband could give you a laundry list of things he wishes I did differently. Cleaning more, for example, prioritizing other people besides him less, taking the initiative on planning more out-of-the-house dates. I'm happiest cuddling on the couch watching a movie, but he really likes to go out to restaurants and such. I do my best to be self-aware, but I'm sure I have flaws that I wouldn't know to identify too. Edit. Oh, and more sex. He'd definitely like more sex, and more of the kind of sex he wants. That said, having discussed all of the above stuff with my husband at one point or another, and having heard his responses and his requests and such in therapy, I can tell you that he'd agree with the general accuracy of my account, even if his own perspective on the events or what's okay might differ in places since we are, after all, different people. Update 1. So the first thing I want to do before giving my update is to thank all of you for chiming in. It can be really hard for me to be confident in my own perception of the world and of reality, and being able to get input from total strangers was enormously helpful. My update: I stuck firm to the boundary I set. In addition, I told him that what I needed from him was 1. For him to go to anger management therapy or some other immediate intervention help. 2. For him to find a way to be a supportive partner to me when I'm having a hard time and have that not turn into being all about his own needs. And 3. For him to not only tolerate but actively encourage me to set boundaries, at least in the short term. I told him that essentially, my trust in his ability to respect my boundaries was broken, and that rebuilding that trust would take a lot of work, including him supporting and encouraging boundaries even if he didn't like them or felt they were overcorrections. Which he was saying that this no screaming hard boundary was, after a lot of back and forth of him essentially telling me he didn't know what I wanted from him, despite me articulating the above several times while alternatively and continually pushing back on many parts of what I was asking for. And in the meantime, him continuing to occasionally get upset and send manipulative, passive-aggressive messages and not respect boundaries I was setting in the moment. I told him that something drastic needed to change. I asked him for a separation, but told him I wanted to continue to work on our relationship and date through the separation. I felt that separating might be the only way he and I had a chance of saving our relationship, because living together was doing continual damage that was going to be hard to recover from. He said he needed some time to think on it. A week later, he came back to therapy with me and told me he no longer wanted to be married or in a relationship with me at all. That was devastating enough on its own. At first we were kind with each other, even had a few nights of hanging out and commiserating over our shared grief. He asked for 3 months to get his finances in order before moving out, and I agreed. But then one night last weekend he picked a fight with me, and again started sending manipulative, passive-aggressive messages. I thought he might have been drunk, so I messaged in the morning, but he doubled down and said even worse things. I stayed out as much as possible for the rest of the weekend, but Monday morning he was stomping around the house getting ready for work, screaming at the cat, slamming doors, and I was hiding in bed and flinching at every noise. I ended up taking a sick day because I was such a mess. That day, I messaged him and told him that he was behaving in an emotionally abusive way, and that I didn't feel safe in the house with him, and that we needed to revisit our timeline for him moving out. I also told him that I had been terrified. To tell him this, that I was shaking even sending the message. He minimized his behavior, acted incredulous, and asked how soon. I told him end of April. He freaked out and said he needed until July. Then he did a complete 180, said a friend would lend him the money and he'd be out by early April. He spent all week packing and visiting apartments, and now he's moving out this Sunday, which is a little bit of a relief, but is also such a strong rubber banding move that I'm certain it's him attempting to take control of the situation. And I'm sure his story to everyone else is that I don't care about his pain, and I'm kicking him out early. Anyway, that pretty much brings us up to speed. I've been coming to terms, slowly, with the fact that I've been in an emotionally abusive relationship for years. Sometimes I feel horribly guilty, Like I didn't do enough to try and save things. Or like I'm making a big deal out of nothing and now I'm throwing my life away. I did have a really wonderfully validating one-on-one session with our couple's therapist, who reassured me that my perception of the situation is accurate and I'm not the one who did this to us. Sometimes I'm just incredibly heartbroken and lonely. Sometimes I'm angry that he didn't care enough to try and work at it. But I think it's likely that ultimately, this ending is for the best, as awful as that feels. Again, I really want to thank everyone here who responded to my original post. Some of the advice and comments were really hard to read, but they were really important for me to read. It was so helpful knowing I had a bunch of internet strangers backing me up on some level. I think some of my ex's minimizing has caused me to feel really unsure about how I'm perceiving the situation, potentially even gaslighting, though likely unintentional. So having folks who could confirm that what was happening was not okay was vital. I'm lucky to have a good support system locally as well. So, as awful as this all is, I might just get through it okay. Relevant comments. Has OP seen if her ex has treated anyone else the same way he treated her? Reply. I mean yes and no. No one else to the same degree or extent, but some of the patterns are familiar with how he treats other people, like his tendency to cut people out before they have a chance to reject him, or him not being able to presume best intentions of others, edit. And yes, excruciating is a good word for it. Commenter 1. I think he's going to come crawling back to you when the outside world fails to put up with his abuse. Be strong. Reply. I'm not usually one to get back together with an ex, and given how this is ending and what I know now about how toxic he has been, it feels much more unlikely than with all of my previous relationships. Update 2. I wanted to give y'all another update. Hopefully the last one. It's been about a year since my original post. 10 months since the first update. My ex did move out. Thankfully, moving day was uneventful, and then he was gone, and as many commentators predicted, when he was gone from the house it was a huge relief. I didn't have to cringe at every little sound anymore. I could breathe again. I was really, really sad, but my space was my own. And then I got laid off. No joke. Hell of a 1-2 punch right there. The past 2 years have, on the whole, been incredibly painful. The year that my marriage fell apart, and then the year I had to spend recovering from that blow. I had to job hunt while mourning the death of my relationship. And as soon as I found a new job, I also found out my house needed hugely expensive repairs that, after all of this mess, as well as having supported my ex not working for a year, I just didn't have the cash for. And figuring out how to be on my own for a while. I had people there to support me, but in the day-to-day, hour to hour through this mess, I was ultimately on my own. And that was hard. Binging The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel helped a bit. He also kept reaching out. For a while it was occasionally chatty, but as time went on, and I came more to terms with how he'd treated me, and how frequently his messages had a tinge of emotional manipulation to them, I distanced myself. He messaged me once to ask if I regretted our entire relationship, on the whole, or if I thought he was a terrible person. On the whole, I didn't respond to that one at all. Then he'd reach out with things like, hey, the TV I took from our living room broke. Do you want it from me? Like to sell or try and fix? I've been doing my best to keep my responses short and clear, in ways that don't invite follow-up. Lately, he's been wanting to have a post-mortem conversation, to which I said that I wouldn't be ready to consider whether or not that'd be a good idea until our legal ties were ended. He also just messaged to ask if he could be my roommate. Because his rent is really high, I have no words. The good news, and there's thankfully quite a lot of it. The new job I got is possibly the best job I've ever had. A step down in salary, but I'm super happy with the work and the people and the location, and I've been getting rave reviews from coworkers and management, enough that I think I can probably negotiate a decent raise in a few months. I had to get a new car as well, new to me, but purchased used since my ex got the car we shared in the split. And I was nervous about negotiating and buying a car by myself, which I'd never done before. But I did it, and managed to negotiate the dealer about $1,000 down, and I absolutely love the car. Also, I met someone new. This person reminds me of my ex in a lot of ways. Things like shared hobbies and creativity and sense of humor and charm. But very different in some really important ways. He treats me really well. He's thoughtful and kind and generous. Not just to me, but to everyone. In the conflicts we've had very few, we are able to talk through them calmly. No yelling. And he shows me how much he respects and cares about my perspective and boundaries and autonomy. He's not broken and doesn't need me to fix him. And I'm not broken either. Thank God. Maybe carrying a bit of extra baggage. But such is life. This relationship is still new, but it feels like a game changer for both of us. And I'm excited to see where it leads. And one more bit of good news. I will officially be divorced on Friday. Yes, the day after Valentine's Day XD. There are a few more loose ends to wrap up after that, but not many. I wanted to provide this update in part because I know it can be nice to see updates from folks, but also because I wanted to give a bit of hope to anyone who might be in a situation like mine. It can get better. It really can. I'm actually happy. It took time and hard work, and things aren't perfect. I'm definitely going to need a lot of time to recover financially, and I'm still sometimes processing the weight of 11 years of emotional abuse, for therapy. But I'm actually truly happy. Sometimes I wonder how much of the depression I'd been feeling before he left was the result of how much emotional weight I'd been carrying for so long, his and mine, without truly being aware of it. It's so easy to feel like that dark tunnel is all there ever will be, when you're in the middle of it. But I'm out in the sunshine now, and it feels amazing. Relevant comments, commenter 1, congratulations. But block him entirely so he gets the message once and for all. You can speak through your lawyers. He is still emotionally manipulating you. Reply. We don't have lawyers, so some amount of communication is necessary to get through this. But it is nearing its end, thankfully, and after that we'll see. OOP responds on what red flags she should have picked up into the relationship with her ex reply. When we first got together, there wasn't anything immediate, but about 6 months in we had a fight, and I was taken aback at the way he handled it. I have no recollection of what we fought about, but I remember it being something small, probably miscommunication-based, but I felt his anger coming at me in a way that was startling at the time, and felt out of proportion with the conflict we were having. I think that was my first warning sign, honestly. He often would presume poor intent on my part, and that made conflicts so much harder to get through. I think another warning sign was that he put off taking care of his own mental health for years, and he desperately needed it. Convincing him to see a therapist took a lot, probably in part because I wasn't setting good boundaries around how much emotional support I could give. I can't tell you how many times I sat with him while he was in a depressive self-shame spiral, trying to support and care for him however I could. But I'm not a professional. I'm not actually equipped to be a therapist for someone, and certainly not my partner. Though even him getting help didn't fix things. It may be that he still hasn't gotten the actual kind of help he needs. Beyond that, it's kind of hard to pinpoint. Nothing was big or outrageous enough to ping warning bells aside from when we'd fight, and we were actively working on improving our conflict styles for years. But I have a long list of small things that, added together, paint a bigger picture. Things that indicated that his needs always came first. Ways I'd adapt to avoid bigger problems I knew were looming. Like me proposing to support him financially for a year so he could design a game when I knew he was miserable and taking it out on me, and probably going to quit his job without another one lined up. Anyway, and I hoped that if he was working on something he cared about, he'd be happier, and thus treat me better. He didn't, and he wasn't. And he treated me much worse, actually. OP on her finances, and if it has been affected by the divorce. Reply, my finances will recover. Though the divorce part has been less expensive than the relationship and its after effects was, because a lot of the financial issues came from the house we bought together that I ended up with on my own. I'm the only one on the loan, but both our names are on the deed, which should be fixed soon, thankfully, as well as the savings spent to support him being unemployed for the whole year prior to our relationship ending. Commenter 2, can I ask how the cat is that he used to scream at? So glad you're doing well. Reply, I wish I had better news on that front, but the cat was his, so I have no idea how the cat is doing. We'd had 2 cats, one was mine and one was his. My cat passed away a few years ago, and my ex's cat went with him when he left. I still think about that kitty. I hope it's doing okay. On a happier note, when I found my new job, I went out and adopted 2 kittens from a shelter. They're sisters, and super sweet and adorable and doing wonderfully. Oopie responds to a downvoted comment on the divorce and take her ex back as he is now, a changed man. Reply, he asked me for the divorce and breakup, not the other way around. I had initially asked for the separation, but to keep working on fixing things which I made clear when I asked for it, He's the one who ended it, but in retrospect, I'm glad he did. And regretting something isn't the same thing as changing. Additional information from OP when in counseling reply. If I told you that the couple's counselor who saw my husband and I confirmed that it was abuse, would that change your mind or perception of what happened? If I told you that it took me many years, as well as the outside opinions of counseling professionals, as well as the opinions of friends who witnessed his behavior, and had been in much worse abuse situations like sent to the hospital multiple times for injuries etc. than I had, all of them telling me that this was abuse, for me to label his behavior as abuse, would that change your mind or perception of what happened? If I told you that I was on either neutral no contact but no bad feelings or friendly positive terms with every ex I've ever had aside from this man, would that change your mind or perception of what I'm typically like in relationships? I spent 11 years adjusting my behavior in every reasonable way, and many unreasonable ones I could think of to prevent him from snapping at me, yelling at me, etc. Nothing ever worked. Nothing was ever good enough. Let's try an example. If he came home from work grumpy, what should I do? I try to do something nice for him to help lift his spirits, like pick up his favorite food, or do one of the chores that were his to do. B. Give him hugs, offer sex, physical comfort. C. Give him a cheerful pep talk. Tell him how great he's doing and how wonderful he is, etc. D. Give him his space because he needed to recharge after a long day. E. Ask him directly what he'd like for me to do, either to help him feel better, or at minimum help him not feel worse. If you picked A, I tried that many times. It generally went unnoticed and did not seem to help, but I'd do it anyway. If you picked B, he would usually push me away, didn't want hugs or affection, say he wasn't in the mood for sex, etc. Totally fine. Except that he also felt that we didn't have enough sex, and it was my fault in some way. If you picked C, most likely I'm getting snapped at for saying the wrong encouraging word, because it's not realistic or something. Or he starts a shame spiral about how he's not amazing, and he's terrible, and everything's terrible. If you picked D, he would often say this is what he wanted. But then he'd take my giving him space as me actually wanting space from him, and would feel neglected and be upset with me, and it'd come out in some argument later. If you picked E, he almost never knew what he wanted, or would know what he wanted but felt that he couldn't tell me. Because if I really loved him, I'd just know what he needed without him having to ask. And him having to tell me what he wanted would make the act lose its meaning. But me guessing never worked either, because his needs were a moving target. And a thing that helped one day would make him actively frustrated with me the next. Despite those outcomes, I still tried as best I could. I still kept trying to help. Even if help meant giving him space or backing off, that would have been fine. Because I cared, damn it. I loved that man, and yes, also because I didn't want to get yelled at. I absolutely have flaws, but I promise you that the most angelic, perfect person you could possibly imagine would still have been yelled at and treated poorly. Stories number 11, that's it, I'm over it. I'm removing my hijab for a day as vengeance. My dad forced me since I was little to wear hijab. I was okay with it until I was 15-16 when both my parents just did the worst shit to me. Growing up, I had to be dependent of my dad. If I came up with a new info from school, my dad would be mad because he wasn't the one teaching it to me. I couldn't work until now I am 21 just so I couldn't feel like I can make my money myself. He'd basically say it's haram for me working or whatever, I'll fall into debt, like nah. I'm just trying to be a normal adult. I don't want to look at everyone buying stuff while I have to wait for my mom to buy me clothes or whatever. I can't have friends because that's haram. He's scared that I'll get influenced and yap too much to these friends about my life, and then they would tell me it's weird or whatever. Guys, I tried to be in my religion. But imagine any time you really feel like your faith is getting better, there's someone telling you, did you pray? I don't believe you do it. Infant of me again. When you actually did, he even said you need to tell me when your period date end, so I can see if you're praying really or not. As Muslims, you do not pray when you have your period. Like, it's just weird. Even my mom doesn't ask me that. I cannot go out since I was little, even until now. Tomorrow I'm going looking out for a job. I have an interview, and I'll do it without my hijab because IDC. Anymore, there's too much I'm leaving out for length purposes, but really it's over, I'm done trying. With religion, my faith was already too late, and now every little hope is crushed by that man. Who face coming in for real? Commenter 1. That's suffocating as hell. The period tracking thing is genuinely unhinged. Hope the interview goes well, and you can finally get some independence and breathing room. Commenter 2. Maybe pack your bags and move out before you remove your hijab. Oh, PS, send an update so we know you're safe. Commenter 3. If you're in a country where you have limited rights, you should consider trying to move before claiming your independence. Even if you have to say, I've been praying, and God wants me to study in France or UK, that might be better than trying to proclaim independence in your country where you might have limited opportunities to work and support yourself. Women all around the world have their own lives, work, finances, apartments, and they can choose if they want men to be a part of that or not. Commenter 4. I'm so proud of you for sticking up for yourself, but I agree with another comment that says, move then remove the hijab. You deserve safety and peace. I wish you all the best and hope you find the happiness and freedom you crave. Stories number 12. I am 40 got into an argument with my wife F39 because I don't take initiative in life. How do I learn to take the lead and not be a passenger in my own life? We have been together almost 20 years not, married for 15, grown kid. We were on a vacation, and I had not planned anything I really wanted to see. Well, it was a working vacation, she was going a training, and I had driven us there to go along. When the weekend came, she asked what I would like to do. I had not really planned or looked into anything, and she got a little irritated. This led to an argument. I guess more of a vent session than an argument. I didn't really say much back TBH. She said I need to be more proactive and take the lead more in our lives, and not be a passenger along for the ride, pointing out how I rarely pick movies to watch, or how I had not even bothered to look up any places to eat or things to do around the city we were in. This went on for a little while, and she said that it gets old to having a cardboard cut out of a husband, and that she wants a person who has opinions and is curious about the world around. Not just along for the ride. I will admit I had not thought of things to do while we were on this trip, and I could have. I had lots of spare time the say she did the training. We didn't really talk much the drive home. I think this has been stirring for a while, and is probably more than not looking up things to do on the trip. I always thought letting her take the lead would allow her to get what she wants and make her happy. I guess it is not what she wants, and now I am kind of lost on how to take more initiative and be more proactive in life and our relationship. I really don't have many close friends to ask things like this of, and probably wouldn't even if I did. My question is, how do I learn to be more proactive in my relationship before it's too late? TLDR went on a trip and got into a fight because I didn't plan anything to do and out off time. How do I become more proactive and take the lead more? Notable comments. Commenter 1, you are mixing things up. She has asked you to become a person with their own wants, needs, and opinions again. You interpret that as having to lead. But those are different things. I fear that you are one of those people who just got lost in their relationship, because it's easier than doing things yourself. Doing things yourself is also how you get back to being your own person. You say you let your wife take the lead so she'd be happy, but have you considered that it is also exhausting to think for two people, and that she might like conversations where you give a different perspective instead of agreeing that your own opinions? Comment sounds like this. It's not about leading, it's about being your own person, and not just a prop for her life. Start with this. For the next weekend, you think about something you would like to do. Can be something you used to like or something new. Then you make the plans and do it. Then maybe start a new hobby. Find a sport, learn a language, find some cities you want to visit. Plan a date, and with that, I mean from beginning to end, so she only has to show up and then have conversations where you won't blindly agree, but contribute your own points. Maybe you even bring up a new topic of conversation. All of those things aren't leading. They are being an individual that offers something other than giving up everything that made them them in a relationship. Reply, that makes a lot of sense, really. I often get lost in conversations with her. She is very up to date on the news and current events. I am not so much. So many times I don't have opinions on things she says. You are probably right about kind of blindly agreeing on some stuff. Makes a lot of sense, really. Commenter 2. It's not meant to come of harsh. I just keep seeing people, not only men, getting into relationships and then losing themselves. And that can be really frustrating for a spouse that wants a real partner, and she married you, so you must have been that at some point. Also, it is good for you to have your own life. It's healthy. It means that you don't rely only on your partner to fulfill you. That is very important because you could lose her for whatever reason. And if she is the only most important thing in your life, you will have a way harder time to live on somehow. I really hope that you don't see your wife's blow-up as the reason you are doing this, but as a wake-up call, and your own well-being as the reason. Because that is really what it comes down to. Being more interesting to your wife is just the bonus. Also, I pointed out the difference between leading and being your own person. because nowadays it's very easy to fall into a bad rabbit hole if you confuse them. Reply: that's a hard thing to think about, honestly. But you're right, it should also be about my own well-being. And being more interesting to her would also make things better as well. I can imagine there are lots of dark rabbit holes around relationships. Thanks for the warning. Commenter 3, be interesting to yourself. Don't do this for her, do it for you, OP. I think I understand you more than some of these harsh comments because I am the same. It doesn't manifest itself exactly like your situation, but darn close. My point is that I have quite a bit of empathy for you as you're just discovering that you're this way, and it doesn't work for your relationship or your life. You're brand new to this. I'm a little less brand new, but still figuring it out. The it being the extreme passivity. I've sometimes felt like I had a wax covering or bubble or whatever between me and the world. It's partly a defense mechanism from childhood with some adult trauma thrown in, some other mental health issues, and a bunch of other crap, so yeah, it's complicated. An annoying understatement to myself and those around me. What I would suggest for you is while you look for ways to actively engage with your wife, you find a therapist that can help you unpack how you got here, how you're a passenger in your own life, how you can become more invested in your life, and how you can direct those changes. As I've understood my passivity more, I've kind of looked around at others and not seen it a lot in the wild. So I get these harsher comments because it doesn't seem to be common. From your own comments, I can see you're definitely still in the fog of it all. But don't take it too much to heart. You just have to start taking the wheel. You're not alone. Though I am the same. Commenter 4. She literally told you, start planning things. Start thinking ahead to what needs to get done. It's incredibly frustrating to be with a partner who you have to parent. Step up and stop making her do everything. A wet noodle of a man is so unattractive. Commenter 5. Instead of working it out for himself, he is now asking strangers on Reddit to do it for him. Commenter 6. Heaven forbid he Google things to do in this place we're visiting, live in, or local events in August or something. Commenter 7. You learn to be proactive by being more proactive. Plan a date night once a week, start now. Make a list of things to do, restaurants that look good, day trips, to places you could drive to. Make as big a list as you possibly can, and present 2 or 3 options to her each week. Keep updating the list. Never stop updating the list. Commenter 8. Start making a list in Netflix or whatever as well. Commenter 8. Deciding his work. You're making her do all the work. Update. After I made my original post, I spent a lot of time thinking about what she and people here had said. Not just about planning date nights, picking TV shows, or being more up to date on news, current events, but more about showing up as my own person in our relationship. I realized that for years I thought being easygoing was a good thing. I thought that by going along with what she wanted, I was being a good partner and letting her have what she wanted. But really I was avoiding responsibility or taking risk in our relationship. I wasn't showing her who I am or putting any care into anything. I have made a few changes since my post. I have planned some date nights and things to do, instead of waiting for her to make plans for us to avoid doing nothing, a problem we had fallen into. Sometimes she likes what I have planned, sometimes not so much, but I think she appreciates the effort. I have been speaking up and paying attention more, even about little things. What I think about a TV show or place we have been for the first time. Offering more than "it was okay" or "it was all right," but offering some actual opinions that don't dead-end the conversation. I have been paying attention more to the news and current events. And even though many times I don't really have an opinion about things, I offer what I can to show some interest. It's awkward at times, but better than just doing nothing. I am also reconnecting with some interests that I had let go over the years. Been more willing to spend time with some friends instead of choosing to stay home and scroll. I have also restarted some old hobbies, hiking and mineral collecting, which I can do on my own, or she has come with me a few times. She seems happy I am out doing things on my own and reconnecting with friends after so many years, I think. The biggest change was how I think about taking initiative and taking the lead. It's not about being the boss or the one to make all the decisions. It's about being present and curious about the world and what is around me, and wanting to do more when we are on a trip than sitting on my phone and scrolling for hours. So in an almost exact mirror of what happened in my last post. Again, last weekend we traveled so she could give another training, and I drove us there. Again, she took the car. But instead of just hanging out in the hotel room and waiting for her to come back, I used the bus system and went to the world's biggest comic shop. Saw a few historical touristy spots. Had lunch and found a huge flea market for us to go to on Sunday morning before driving home. It was a very different weekend than the last. She was most surprised when I had picked an Indian spot for dinner Saturday night. I am not a very adventurous eater and have shied away from trying foreign foods. This was my first time trying Indian. And she has always been an adventurous eater, so I really caught her off guard with that. There is still work to do, but I think we are in a much better place than when I posted before. She has said she has seen a difference, and said she feels she is seeing me be more me again. Thanks to the people who responded to my OG post. Your advice helped, even the harsh replies. TLDR, update. Got in an argument about being too passive. Think things are in a better place now? Comments. I remembered the reply about making lists, and I started doing that. I felt a little kicked when my kid said I could keep notes in my phone when I was asking where to find a police-style spiral notepad. I should have thought there would be an app for that. Honestly, it is exactly like that. Looking around again instead of just letting the world pass by. There are parts in movies where they show the monotony of life, and I had really fallen into that pattern. I am enjoying caring about what goes on around more than the weather. In general, now you're more curious about the world. Does that keep feeding your curiosity? Like, do you find yourself wanting to explore more things? Make more plans for the future? It does. I had not really thought about traveling much in a long time, but I do think about places I would like to see. I also have started listening to more talk kind of things while I work, instead of just a playlist of music all the time, which I never did before. I hope this leads you towards a happier ending than your original destination. I already think the ship has turned from hitting the iceberg, but you are right, I need to keep on the lookout and not let myself slip back where I was. Indian food wasn't anything like I had imagined, honestly. I got mixed grill thing that was lamb, chicken, and shrimp with a yogurt-type sauce, and she had chicken something in a sauce. It was decent. I shouldn't have been so avoidant to trying it before, honestly. Stories number 13. Aita for calling my sil a mistress in front of everyone after she said I deserve paternity. English second language. My brother had extramarital affair, and he divorced my sil and got married to my current sil mistress. He basically ditched his wife and got married to this stupid woman, and our family is trying to accept her because of my brother. My sil on this Sunday on our family gathering asked my wife to prove that our daughter is actually mine. We are both browns, all of us, and I am on the more fair side, but my daughter came out as completely brown. She said to my wife that it would be nice if she takes paternity test to prove it to our family that the child is mine. She said that my daughter could have inherited me and had to be a little fair as in skin. My wife couldn't say anything because of sudden shock, but I told her that my wife doesn't need to prove anything, and she's not going to be proving herself. She said that it's best that I find out about my heritage than after. I said she's a mistress, so she is maybe experienced or inexperienced. My mom pulled me aside and she asked me, why would I say that out loud in front of everyone? I said with my loud voice that a second-rate mistress is questioning my wife and she should not be having an affair with married men. I left with my wife and my brother asked me and my wife to apologize to his wife. I said I will never apologize to anyone and I won't let my wife to do so even if she wants to. He said he didn't want to stay with someone his ex because of arranged marriage. And I replied with that I don't care. His wife is still a mistress and a stupid mistress to ask other women for paternity. Am I asshole? My family is broken. In fact, we broke off because of that witch mistress, but I will never apologize to her or my brother for her accusations towards my wife. Commenter 1 NTA. Glass houses and stones do not mix. Commenter 2 NTA. So your mom and brother were okay with her questioning the paternity of her grandchild, but not with you calling her out for cheating? Fuck that and never apologize. Reply. My mom wasn't okay with that mistress's accusations. She was just trying to do whatever she was. For both of us, and I don't think my mom would actually question my daughter's legitimacy, and I think she's did so for her other son, and just forgot about me for a bit. Commenter 3. The absolute gall of cheaters to accuse others of their same behavior never ceases to amaze me. And sorry, but your mother is an enabling idiot to call you out when her cheating a-hole son's now legal side piece made such an inflammatory accusation in front of everyone. I hope by being broken off, your enabling mother is part of that. As for your brother and his new wife, better off to be alone than to have them around. NTA, commenter 4, NTA, she disrespected your wife and you only jabbed back afterwards. Suggestion? Tell your mother that after she and your brother apologize, you will then, and only then, stop calling her a mistress. Stories number 14. I am 40 got into an argument with my wife F39 because I don't take initiative in life. How do I learn to take the lead and not be a passenger in my own life? We have been together almost 20 years, not married for 15, grown kid. We were on a vacation, and I had not planned anything I really wanted to see. Well, it was a working vacation. She was going a training, and I had driven us there to go along. When the weekend came, she asked what I would like to do. I had not really planned or looked into anything, and she got a little irritated. This led to an argument. I guess more of a vent session than an argument. I didn't really say much back, TBH. She said I need to be more proactive and take the lead more in our lives and not be a passenger along for the ride, pointing out how I rarely pick movies to watch, or how I had not even bothered to look up any places to eat, or things to do around the city we were in. This went on for a little while, and she said that it gets old to having a cardboard cutout of a husband, and that she wants a person who has opinions and is curious about the world around. Not just along for the ride. I will admit I had not thought of things to do while we were on this trip, and I could have. I had lots of spare time to say she did the training. We didn't really talk much the drive home. I think this has been stirring for a while, and is probably more than not looking up things to do on the trip. I always thought letting her take the lead would allow her to get what she wants and make her happy. I guess it is not what she wants, and now I am kind of lost on how to take more initiative and be more proactive in life and our relationship. I really don't have many close friends to ask things like this of, and probably wouldn't even if I did. My question is, how do I learn to be more proactive in my relationship before it's too late? TLDR. Went on a trip and got into a fight because I didn't plan anything to do and out off time. How do I become more proactive and take the lead more? Comments. Commenter 1. You are mixing things up. She has asked you to become a person with their own wants, needs, and opinions again. You interpret that as having to lead, but those are different things. I fear that you are one of those people who just got lost in their relationship. Because it's easier than doing things yourself. Doing things yourself is also how you get back to being your own person. You say you let your wife take the lead so she'd be happy, but have you considered that it is also exhausting to think for two people? And that she might like conversations where you give a different perspective instead of agreeing your own opinions? Comment sounds like this. It's not about leading. It's about being your own person, and not just a prop for her life. Start with this. For the next weekend, you think about something you would like to do. Can be something you used to like or something new. Then you make the plans and do it. Then maybe start a new hobby. Find a sport. Learn a language. Find some cities you want to visit. Plan a date. And with that, I mean from beginning to end. So she only has to show up and then have conversations where you won't blindly agree, but contribute your own points. Maybe you even bring up a new topic of conversation. All of those things aren't leading. They are being an individual that offers something other than giving up everything that made them them in a relationship. Reply, that makes a lot of sense, really. I often get lost in conversations with her. She is very up to date on the news and current events. I am not so many times I don't have opinions on things she says. You are probably right about kind of blindly agreeing on some stuff. Makes a lot of sense, really. Commenter 1 reply, it's not meant to come of harsh. I just keep seeing people, not only men, getting into relationships and then losing themselves. And that can be really frustrating for a spouse that wants a real partner. And she married you, so you must have been that at some point. Also, it is good for you to have your own life. It's healthy. It means that you don't rely only on your partner to fulfill you. That is very important because you could lose her for whatever reason. And if she is the only most important thing in your life, you will have a way harder time to live on somehow. I really hope that you don't see your wife's blow up as the reason you are doing this, but as a wake-up call, and your own well-being as the reason. Because that is really what it comes down to. Being more interesting to your wife is just the bonus. Also, I pointed out the difference between leading and being your own person. Because nowadays it's very easy to fall into a bad rabbit hole if you confuse them. Reply, that's a hard thing to think about, honestly. But you're right, it should also be about my own well-being. And being more interesting to her would also make things better as well. I can imagine there are lots of dark rabbit holes around relationships. Thanks for the warning. Commenter 2. She literally told you, start planning things. Start thinking ahead to what needs to get done. It's incredibly frustrating to be with a partner who you have to parent. Step up and stop making her do everything. A wet noodle of a man is so unattractive. Commenter 3. Honestly, don't be surprised if she ups and ends it one day. The hard truth is, this behavior is exhausting, infuriating, and it makes us lose respect for you. How to fix it? Care, FFS, energy, excitement, thoughtfulness. I don't really know how to teach those things. I am in a tag-along relationship. and the lack of action orientation is a huge problem for me. I tend to have to plan everything, and it makes me angry and honestly makes me want to do more things alone. Paying attention to what she likes. If you don't have a good memory, write it down instead of just tagging along. Do some research. Look at restaurants or activities that sound interesting for both of you. Make a list, recommend them, show initiative. But seriously, it takes energy, effort, and initiative. If you don't care and it's all apathy, it makes you seem like a child and your marriage is doomed. Commenter 4. Who are you? What do you like? What do you want to see? It sounds like you just follow her around like a passive child. Having zero interest in your family, your life, and the world around you is both concerning and very unattractive. There is certainly more to life than doing what makes someone else happy. Go to therapy. Start taking small steps to developing yourself as a person. Partner and father. Update. I am 40, got into an argument with my wife F39 because I don't take initiative in life. How do I learn to take the lead and not be a passenger in my own life? After I made my original post, I spent a lot of time thinking about what she and people here had said. Not just about planning date nights, picking TV shows, or being more up to date on news, current events, but more about showing up as my own person in our relationship. I realized that for years I thought being easygoing was a good thing. I thought that by going along with what she wanted, I was being a good partner and letting her have what she wanted. But really, I was avoiding responsibility or taking risk in our relationship. I wasn't showing her who I am or putting any care into anything. I have made a few changes since my post. I have planned some date nights and things to do instead of waiting for her to make plans for us to avoid doing nothing, a problem we had fallen into. Sometimes she likes what I have planned, sometimes not so much. But I think she appreciates the effort. I have been speaking up and paying attention more, even about little things. What I think about a TV show or place we have been for the first time. Offering more than "it was okay" or "it was all right," but offering some actual opinions that don't dead-end the conversation. I have been paying attention more to the news and current events, and even though many times I don't really have an opinion about things, I offer what I can to show some interest. It's awkward at times, but better than just doing nothing. I am also reconnecting with some interests that I had let go over the years. Been more willing to spend time with some friends instead of choosing to stay home and scroll. I have also restarted some old hobbies, hiking and mineral collecting, which I can do on my own, or she has come with me a few times. She seems happy I am out doing things on my own and reconnecting with friends after so many years, I think. The biggest change was how I think about taking initiative and taking the lead. It's not about being the boss or the one to make all the decisions. It's about being present and curious about the world and what is around me, and wanting to do more when we are on a trip than sitting on my phone and scrolling for hours. So in an almost exact mirror of what happened in my last post, again last weekend we traveled so she could give another training and I drove us there. Again she took the car, but instead of just hanging out in the hotel room and waiting for her to come back, I used the bus system and went to the world's biggest comic shop, saw a few historical touristy spots, had lunch and found a huge flea market for us to go to on Sunday morning before driving home. It was a very different weekend than the last. She was most surprised when I had picked an Indian spot for dinner Saturday night. I am not a very adventurous eater and have shied away from trying foreign foods. This was my first time trying Indian, and she has always been an adventurous eater, so I really caught her off guard with that. There is still work to do, but I think we are in a much better place than when I posted before. She has said she has seen a difference and said she feels she is seeing me be more me again. Thanks to the people who responded to my OG post. Your advice helped. Even the harsh replies, TLDR, update, got in an argument about being too passive. Think things are in a better place now. Comments. Commenter 1, hi OP. I was one of the top comments in the absolutely brutal roasting you received in your previous post. And I am speechless that you took the advice to heart and probably saved your marriage and your social life by simply learning to give a shit. Goddamn, well done. I bet your friends missed you. Reply, I remember your reply about making lists, and I started doing that. I felt a little kicked when my kid said I could keep notes in my phone when I was asking where to find a police-style spiral notepad. I should have thought there would be an app for that. Commenter 2, oh my word, you've done amazing work. It does sound like a healthier environment for both of you. And what a change from the last work trip. I hope you are, for yourself, enjoying coming out of your shell. Again, kudos reply. I hope you are, for yourself, enjoying coming out of your shell. I am. Honestly, it is exactly like that. looking around again instead of just letting the world pass by. There are parts in movies where they show the monotony of life, and I had really fallen into that pattern. I am enjoying caring about what goes on around more than the weather. Thank you, Commenter 3, good on you. Something really important to do is to maintain the effort. It's always easier to slide into previous bad habits, so you'll need to remain vigilant, but I hope this leads you towards a happier ending than your original destination. Reply, I hope this leads you towards a happier ending than your original destination. I already think the ship has turned from hitting the iceberg, but you are right. I need to keep on the lookout and not let myself slip back where I was. Commenter 4, I am so proud of you, internet stranger. And I remember your first post, in general. Now you're more curious about the world. Does that keep feeding your curiosity? Like, do you find yourself wanting to explore more things? Make more plans for the future? Reply, in general. Now you're more curious about the world. Does that keep feeding your curiosity? Like, do you find yourself wanting to explore more things? Make more plans for the future? It does. I had not really thought about traveling much in a long time, but I do think about places I would like to see. I also have started listening to more talk kind of things while I work, instead of just a playlist of music all the time, which I never did before. Stories number 15. Found BFS secret Twitter. I 21F have been dating my boyfriend 25M for about a year. A couple weeks ago, I glanced over at his phone and saw that he was on a Twitter account that I didn't know about. When I was alone, I looked up the Twitter handle and started reading through his tweets. I saw several tweets to other users giving them advice to cheat on their partners. Sexual comments about 18Y are old, degrading comments about women. Reading through the comments made me feel sick to my stomach. I feel disappointed and stupid because how he presented himself to me is not at all like the person who made those comments. I'm currently living with my parents and my BF, and I have talked about moving in together. My parents' household is very toxic and I feel desperate to move out. He also doesn't hesitate to take care of some of my finances as I am disabled and can't work currently. I don't ask him for money, but he has offered to help out. We have had a rocky relationship from the start, but we both have strong feelings for each other, at least from what he's told me. I'm not sure how to bring up the secret Twitter and the posts he's made, or if I should say anything about it at all. I feel like if I say anything, he will just delete it and make a new one. I don't want to date someone who thinks about women the way he does, but leaving him would mean I would need to stay at my parents' house, and I would be struggling financially again. I also want to note that I'm not with him just for financial reasons. I love him and could see a future with him. There just seems to be so many red flags, and I'm worried he is taking advantage of my naivety. How should I bring this up with him? Thank you for taking the time to read my post, TLDR. I found very distasteful posts on my BFS secret Twitter account, and I'm not sure how to bring it up with him, or if it's even as big of a deal as it seems to me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I guarantee you that his true colors will show once you two are living together. And do you really want to be fully dependent on that person? Reply, that is my fear. I want to think that talking at him about it would change his mind, but I know I'm just in denial about it all. I don't want to be dependent on anyone. It's just challenging given my disability. Commenter 2. Is it a kink thing? Wait. That's not better if he was looking at it next to you. Reply, I don't think he intended for me to see, as I had saw the phone as I was sitting down next to him, and he quickly exited out. I actually have asked him if he had kinks, and he only responded with, what kind of question is that? He's asked me if I would ever have a threesome with him with another female. I said I wouldn't be comfortable. I turned the question on him and asked how he would feel if he saw me with another man, and he said he would kill us both. When he saw that I was scared, he said he was just joking. Update. Yesterday morning, I confronted my ex-BF about the secret Twitter account he has been using to make derogatory and inappropriate comments. My stomach was hurting, and my hands were shaking in anticipation for the conversation I was about to have with my BF. I found out about this account almost 2 weeks ago, but I haven't said anything until yesterday. I knew once I brought it up, our relationship would be completely over. I've gone back and forth in my mind deciding if it's worth bringing up, or if I should just move on and forget about it. Yesterday I told him I needed to talk, and I asked him to sit down on the couch. I said, I've seen what you've been posting on Twitter. I made sure to keep my voice quiet and calm, since he had a tendency to become explosive whenever accusations were made against him. He responded with, okay, this is how you talk to people? This is what you think about others? What are you talking about? I've done nothing wrong. Show me what you're talking about. I get up and grab my phone to read off comments I've screenshotted. In a comment to a 17-year-old girl who posted about feeling suicidal over being overweight and unattractive her whole life, he wrote, "Take your fat ass to the gym." Another person asked for advice on what to do since his girl best friend who he was crushing on was going through a breakup. "Just play the part and soon your dick will be in her mouth. She's gonna need some dicking to get through this." More concerning to me were the comments giving advice to cheat. To one man who was unhappy about his sex life with his wife, he said, "Start looking for a side piece. Shouldn't have to beg for head." Another comment to a man who wanted to grow his family, but his wife was hesitant. "Go make a second family in a foreign country. Spread your seed." Notable inappropriate comments. "Dick her down, get some head bro, hit that pussy and get a new bitch. Make sure you bust the biggest nut on her face. Your parents don't want to think about you getting your pussy ate. You probably got some good pussy, and they don't want him to have it all to himself. I mean, WTF? I would never be involved with a man who talked this way." What's more concerning is wondering what else he is hiding, since he thinks it's totally okay to cheat if you're unhappy and not getting your way in a relationship. His response? "That's not mine." I tell him that he used the same username he had for his old Instagram. The area code is from the town he grew up in and he posts specific information that identifies him. He becomes enraged. "Why are you spying on me, trying to spy on me? Now you want to make up fake scenarios? Pull up your dating accounts? Show me your Twitter? Give me your phone." I said, "I knew you would act this way. I caught you making inappropriate comments, and instead of admitting it, you're lying to my face and now treating me as if I have done something wrong. This is so disappointing. The way you're acting online is not how you have presented yourself to me. I don't have a dating account, and I have nothing to hide on my phone. You're not going to turn this on me. This is not okay." I tell him all he has to do to prove it's not his is open the Twitter app and show me that his account isn't on there. He refuses. "I have nothing to prove to you, bitch. I don't need to show you my phone. What now you want to start snooping through my phone?" At this point my hands are shaking and I'm so upset that it's hard for me to talk. He walks towards the door and says he's leaving. I stand in front of the door. He takes out his phone and starts taking a video of me. He says, "This is why I don't deal with white people. You're a Karen. I'm going to call the police because you're holding me hostage." He calls his mother, puts her on speakerphone and says he is being held hostage. Then he pushes me aside, walks out the door and says, "Now I'm safe," I said. "You acted exactly as I thought you would. You're a narcissist. Your behavior is disgusting. How can you stand there and lie straight to my face when I have proof in my hand? If this isn't yours, it's so easy to prove it isn't." "You aren't smooth," he responded. "I am smooth. I'm the man, I'm a king. You're a skanky-ass bitch. You're the biggest liar I've ever met." I went inside my house and he started banging on the door. I go downstairs to my room until he left. After an hour and a half, I counted 30+ missed calls from him. I checked his Twitter and he posted, "Once a bitch, always a bitch," and I saw posts and comments had been deleted. I have tried breaking up with him in the past over unrelated things, and he ended up creating new phone numbers and emails, so he could find a way to get the last word in. I expect that he will beg for me to take him back and will say that he will change, that he is going to seek out counseling, etc. Today he sent me $200 with a note saying, "Have a good weekend." Then he texted me saying he booked a trip for us to get out of town for the weekend. He will stop at nothing. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to take him back because I am desperate to feel loved. I know that none of it is real. It hurts so bad to be betrayed by someone you trusted. I had an ex that behaved almost the exact same way. I don't want to attract these type of men. I think I am going to make an appointment to see a counselor so I can work on being independent. I can't seem to find the love I desire from men, so I hope that one day I may find it elsewhere. If you've taken the time to read, thank you. Moral of the story. When someone shows you who you are, believe them. TLDR. Found BFS secret Twitter. Confronted them, they denied it. Said that it's me who was hiding things. Time to move on. Final comments. Commenter 1. I'd recommend changing phone numbers and or getting a restraining order. Reply, I think I will change my phone number. Also, I looked up how to file a restraining order in my state. Listed under the requirements it says the respondent must have physically injured you or tried to physically injure you or made you afraid that he or she was about to physically injure you or made you have sexual relations against your wishes by using force or threats of force. Thankfully, he has never physically or sexually abused me. Unfortunately, this means I can't file a restraining order. I guess it wouldn't hurt to file one anyways for the sake of documentation. Commenter 2, just fucking ignore him. I know it's difficult because of the harassment reply. I wish I could do that. I'm trying. He keeps using different numbers to message me, texted me an hour saying, "How can I prove that it's not my account?" I haven't gotten over him in the past because he will just keep reaching out. He will send me food, send me gifts until I end up meeting him to hear him out. And my gullible ass just goes back to spending time with him. I hate that I am this way. Stories number 16. Mint son moved out but is telling everyone we kicked him out. Son 20M isn't in college. We told him the fall after high school that we would charge him rent of $500 a month. That money would be put into a savings account for him. And then when he was ready to move out, he would have a nice nest egg to start adulting with. Last summer, I left him my credit card for emergencies while we went away on vacation. He spent $3K on clothes, food, etc. while we were gone. Obviously, none of the purchases were an emergency. And no, he didn't have permission. We told him he needed to pay us back. He didn't. He also barely ever paid the $500-month rent. This April, we told him he had 3 months to pay us back half of the money he stole, so $1,500, or he had to move out. May comes, he pays nothing. June comes, he pays nothing. I said, "Are you looking for a new apartment? Because your deadline to pay us back is 1 month away." He started screaming that he was moving out. The next morning, he and his GF, she was basically living here too, left without a word and haven't been back since this was July. He stopped by one time to pick up some clothes and his PlayStation, and he didn't speak to us while here. We are still paying his cell phone bill. We stopped paying his car insurance after he moved out. He barely responds to text messages from me or his dad. I found out he is telling everyone that we kicked him out. I honestly didn't think we were being very strict. But the fact that he basically won't talk to us now clearly means he thinks we were a holes. Were we? Update: I'm newish to Reddit, so had no idea there would be this much response. I'm not going through 800 plus comments, but to answer the questions I saw repeatedly from the responses I did read, he has a job and has since he was 16 part-time. He doesn't stay in jobs long, 3mo. 1 year is typical for him. He makes $15–20 an hour at his jobs. He has only worked full-time for a few months. He was regularly working 25–35 hours per week since high school finished. We have a family cell phone plan. It would actually cost me more money to cancel his phone than to just keep paying. Plus, he can't get job interviews without a phone. We live in a state that doesn't require auto insurance, so he will not be fined if he doesn't provide his own. I signed the car over to him when he left, so my name is no longer on the car. He regularly smokes marijuana, but he doesn't use other drugs. The vacation was a cruise. So often we did not have cell phone reception. I left the credit card for emergencies with the example of, if the water heater explodes, use this to pay the plumber. I also left $100 in cash to be used if food ran out, but also had groceries delivered while we were away. I can accept that I did, in fact, kick him out, and that we have enabled him to behave this way. Thanks for everyone's replies. Comments: Commenter 1, stop paying the phone 2. Commenter 2, NTA, with a kid like this. It had to happen sooner or later, better sooner. Stop paying his cell phone bill next. Commenter 3, why on earth are you still paying the phone bill? I don't know the dynamic, but I can tell you he'd be missing a lot of things if somebody stole $3,000 from me. I'm rich by no means, and I'd be on Facebook Marketplace with everything. This kid clearly doesn't care about you and/or working and has already proven to not be trusted. He's 20? Then who cares about what he says? A 20-year-old complaining about getting kicked out of their parents' home is wild. Commenter 4, NTA, change the locks, stop paying his phone bill. He stole a lot of money from you, didn't bother trying to pay it back. Let him take that attitude elsewhere. Stories number 17. Aita for trying to drive people away from the bar below my apartment. I live on the second floor of a building in a large West Coast city. I have lived in this apartment for 8 years, and most of my neighbors have been there 10+ years. The street level of my building houses shops, 2 restaurants, a bakery, and a tattoo parlor. It's a pretty quiet street, and all the street level businesses close up between 9–10 p.m., up until about 8–9-ish months ago. The restaurant directly below me was a sushi place since way before I moved in. They have a patio with 7–8 tables that juts out onto the sidewalk. I was a regular there and was super bummed when it closed. It was the owners finally retiring and moving to be closer to their grandkids. So what Yaganado? The building was empty for about 3 months, until I noticed some construction going on. Found out it was a local entrepreneur who owns several bars and restaurants in my city. No big deal, kinda stoked because his other places have the best burgers. The issue was that he wanted this to be more of a bar than a restaurant. That meant they would stay open until 2 a.m. on the weekends, 1 a.m. on the weekdays. I heard through the grapevine that the reason he picked that location is that everything closes early, and he would have the spot everyone in the area would go to when the other places closed up. My neighbors and I were not thrilled, but oh well. After operating a month or two, it became clear this was a bar targeting the 21-26-year-old demographic. That's fine. Do what you do. I'm 40, so I'm not an old man, and I still stay out late on occasion. But most nights I do go to bed fairly early. The issue is, the bar patrons get really loud and kinda rowdy around midnight, and they talk super loudly on the patio, which is below my window. The bar has a garage-type door they open when the weather is nice to access the patio, so when it's open, I can also hear the loud music being played from inside, and I can hear it faintly through my floor. Being the diplomat I am, I went to the bar during the day. One day I knew the owner would be there to chat with him about my concerns. He basically told me I could move if I didn't like it and was really dismissive. Okay then, about 2 weeks later around 11 p.m., I was at my limit with the drunk screaming conversations happening outside. I figured that if the owner had no issue with noise, I would participate. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em sort of thing. I got out my fairly powerful Bluetooth speaker and set it up in my window on a small table I have there. I connected it to an old phone I had and started playing Jingle Bells, the Frank Sinatra version. Of course, I do have some class on repeat. Then I left my place and went to play cards and a local casino until after the bar was closed. I got back at 2:30 a.m. and turned off the music and went to sleep. I repeated this 4 to 5 times a week for 3-ish more weeks, and started noticing that the garage door to the bar was closed more often than not. The only people hanging on the patio were smokers, and they didn't stay long as it stayed quiet. I didn't play Jingle Bells, but when it got loud and rowdy, the music came on and stayed on until they closed. I only did my stunt on days they had the patio door open and it would get loud. Never just because my petty revenge is obviously costing him business, because they are starting to close earlier, and the patio is usually empty because they keep the garage door closed. I started to feel a little bad, but he was so dismissive of me when I wanted to chat and find a solution. I didn't really have a choice besides move or suck it up. My building is rent-controlled, so moving was never an option for me. I am surprised the owner or manager haven't tried to come talk to me, but maybe they don't negotiate with musical terrorists. My dad thinks I'm being petty, and some of my friends agree. Some think it's hilarious, and some think I'm TA because I am costing him and the workers their money. We are currently on a 10-day no-holiday spirit streak, and it's been nice like it was when the old couple had the place downstairs. Comment, my neighbors are all on board with it. I talked to the ones on either side and above me before I started. They said it won't be worse than what we were dealing with and were glad I wanted to try something. Update? Got a couple update requests, so here it is, welp. I have some things to report in the holiday spirit wars of 2025. They had a massive 4th of July party, and it got way out of hand. My Sinatra defense system TM was powerless against the loud music and yelling that was going on. People were all over the sidewalk smoking and yelling, and it was a whole thing. There was a fight, cops were called, bar shut down for the night. To those that guessed they were not approved for that sort of establishment, you were correct. Turns out there is a license here called a nightclub license or something similar. You gotta have to stay open late night hours. The LCB was notified by the police, I'm guessing, and they came in soon after that and pulled their license to serve all booze pending a hearing or something. It ended up not mattering because they just closed the doors. It was reopened like the last week of August-ish. Same name but just as a restaurant. They posted new hours and they now closed at 10 p.m. daily. Some new signs went up that seemed to be focusing on the food more than booze. So things were gonna change. Few days later I decided to be a bit nosy and went in for lunch. I sat at the bar and chatted with the bartender. I asked him what was up with the rebrand, and he told me that the owner's business partner was taking over running their properties. Apparently, the owner that was sort of a dick to me in the first post is kinda having a tough go of it. I guess he's getting divorced, and is just partying and drinking super hard to cope or whatever. Kinda made me feel bad. So I confessed to the bartender that I was the Jingle Bells bandit. He started laughing and goes, "Oh, you're that guy?" He said the previous bartender was a buddy of his and told him about it. He also told me the reason he never escalated things in our little war was because he didn't want me to complain to the city. Still have no idea why nobody else called, but my place is the one directly above the bar, so I took the worst of it. The 4th of July party was the first time I had seen the garage doors open since my first post, so I thought we had a truce. Guy says that the new managing partner told the old guy not to have the party, but he did anyway. So that's why he's managing their properties now. EDK if he's doing them all now or what the deal is. But I won't see the other guy for a bit, so that's it. They do make a good burger though. I've been in a few times since. The new staff is super nice, and the patio below my window is open most of the time and it's fine. It's just people having lunch and dinner talking at a normal volume and doing it sober, which is nice. Stories number 18. Aita for finding it distasteful that the dinner host asked to split the cost of groceries. Not the a-hole. My friend recently moved into a new apartment and invited me to dinner this weekend because she's craving dry pot. For those of you who don't know, dry pot is a stir-fried medley of veggies, meat, all mixed up with a bunch of fancy spices like star anise and cardamom. It was a cute idea, and my first time visiting hers for dinner, so I accepted and asked if it'd make sense for me cook something too. It's a small kitchen. Here's where I personally thought it got weird. She suggested I bring a bottle of wine, and then casually mentioned that she'd like me to pitch in for the cost of ingredients and spices. Now, neither of us are strapped for cash. We both live in a HCOL city, but have very good jobs and financial stability. I've also hosted this friend before plenty of times at my own apartment. Not for dinner, but for cocktails. I worked as a bartender a few years ago, and since then have accumulated my own bar setup at home, 20+ bottles of liquors and bitters, homemade syrups and infusions. Clear glass molds, cute glassware, the works. That was maybe 7+ years ago, and since then my place has become a go-to place among my circle of friends for an occasional pre-dinner drink. And it's really fun creating special cocktails that people will enjoy. I've never asked anyone for a single cent, nor did I feel like that would be the right thing to do given that I was the one hosting. I felt like given this context, it was kind of odd for her to ask me to pitch in for the dollars given that it's never come up before. And I know her financial situation, but she got upset at my pushback, and her rationale is that dry pot is expensive to make, and that she'd be the one doing the cooking and cleanup. As of the time of this post, she spent nearly $80 on specialty spices, and she's still got to get another $100+ worth of imported and specialty groceries from H-Mart LMAO. Apparently this dry pot is also going to make 5 to 6 servings, which I feel like is even more odd because 1, I was just planning to be there for dinner, and wasn't counting on leftovers too. You can control how much you cook at one time, so you don't have to make that much food in one go if you don't want to. My take is that if you're offering to host and cook dinner, buying the food and putting in the time to cook is part of being a good host. Her POV is that my making drinks for her throughout the years isn't equivalent to cooking a full dinner, and that it's very normal to ask someone to pitch in for the cost of food, and that if I'd asked her to pitch in for liquor at any time she would have happily done so. At that point though, I don't know why we wouldn't just go to a restaurant and split the bill, because that'd basically be the same thing. So Reddit, Aita for being disgruntled at being asked to split the cost of the groceries plus some of the spices. ETA. For accuracy's sake I checked our message history, and it was actually closer to $40 of spices. So less expensive than I initially thought. Comments, commenter 1. NTA just declined the invitation and don't have her for cocktails anymore. Commenter 2 NTA. This is such a bizarre setup and is so inconsiderate to you. If the plan was to split the cost of ingredients evenly between you two, that should have been the first thing she brought up. And if that's the case, you need to have equal say in how much gets spent and on what. Especially if it's just you two. There's no reason that dinner should cost $200 in ingredients. My personal policy is that if I'm inviting friends to dinner, I am willingly taking on that cost as host. Sometimes I'll ask or friends will offer to bring something, like a side app dessert. But charging your guests is abrasive, especially if they get little to no say in what gets bought and cooked. Reply, that's my policy too, and that's where I think my friend and I don't see eye to eye. I think by my pushing back, she's taking that as an indication that I'm not willing to help out, and that I'm making a moral judgment by asserting that asking for dollars isn't what a good host would do. It did come out later in conversation that she'd assumed that I'd take some leftovers home, but I think it'd be weirder for a guest to think, oh, we cooked a fuck ton of food? Yeah, of course that's coming home with me, especially when I'd already been planning to bring some wine or a dessert to round out the dinner. It wasn't like I was going to show up at her door with a bunch of Tupperware. The more I think about this, the more odd I think her initial assumptions were. Commenter 3, star anise and cardamom do not cost that much. Also, if she's buying $80 in spices, she's not using all of them for one dinner. She'll have them around for a while afterwards. I know there's also rice and meat to this, but this sounds excessive. Yeah, she wants to get imported. Specialty items. But that's something she should have discussed with she invited you over. Sounds like she wants to have a fun cooking adventure night, but didn't talk to you about the cost factor beforehand, which is her own fault, and not normal to assume a dinner guest would front commenter 4 NTA. She's filling up her spice rack and pantry and wants you to foot the bill. I'd bow out gracefully and say, let's just get a drink out instead. Let someone else be the sucker. Stories number 19. Aita, because I don't want my boyfriend to move in and only pay what the bills go up. I am asking because I had a couple friends say I was being unreasonable, wondering about his financial situation and where all his money is going. And I don't think I am, so I need more unbiased opinions. I 39F have been dating my BF 36M for 5 months. Things have been going great. We just don't see each other very often, once a week currently, because it is hard to coordinate time with 4 kids, 2 mine 10F and 8F, and 2 his 3F 2F. I have worked very hard since my separation and eventual divorce, and I have owned my own home for 25 years, while he still lives with his moms after 2 years. Not that I fault him, because I understand that renting or buying a house right now is an insane market. About a week ago, we were laying in bed, and he said that he sees us lasting a while, and he would like me to consider him and his girls moving in. He says that he cannot offer much, but he can at least cover what the bills would go up, so it wouldn't cost me money for them to live here. I didn't say anything in the moment, just asked what he was thinking for a time frame, and got a response of soon. My house is small, it is only 900 square feet, but I feel that it is unreasonable to offer what bills would go up, which would be a max of $150 a month. Now, I understand that maybe he can't cover half of bills, even though I bought the house when I made $18 an hour, and he currently makes $20 an hour. I think at the very minimum we need to sit down and have a deep dive into each other's finances before I should consider letting him move in, not to mention that it has only been 5 months of dating. I've talked to a few people and the majority seem to side with me, but now I'm paranoid about the couple that don't, that I'm somehow being unreasonable in this whole situation. He also asked to move in after I went to see my financial advisor, and I was kind of saying what my financial position was going to be when I retired, and it's going to be a really good position to be in. And he currently has 0 in retirement. It just feels like he sees what a good financial place I'm going to be in, and that's his retirement plan. And whether it is wrong or not, I value my children's opinions, and they are not ready to have him move in either. This whole situation kind of feels like a red flag. But whether I'm a pessimist or a realist, it feels like I am going to end up with a freeloader. Update of sorts. Thank you all for the reassurance. This was an out-of-the-blue question for sure. The plan was never to let him move in, but when I was called unreasonable for not even considering it, I then questioned my judgment that I was somehow the jerk. He absolutely needs to slow things down, and I absolutely need to stand my ground about things going slower. I am feeling a bit bulldozed in this whole situation. I am not losing my space, and there is no way I am forcing my kids to lose their space. I cannot say thank you enough for all the input. I greatly appreciate it. Commenter 1. That is not equitable at all, and it has only been 5 months. You also hardly see each other, so you barely know him. Furthermore, your house is too small to have 6 people living in it. IMHO, he is trying to take advantage of you and is a major red flag. I'd seriously question anyone telling you otherwise and continuing a relationship with him. Above all else, your children are not ready. Commenter 2. I think it's unreasonable that he's asking you to move in after only 5 months of dating, but that's just my opinion. I wouldn't be moving anybody in after only 5 months of dating. It's way too soon to be asking to move in. Kinda seems like he's dating you in order to have a house outside of his mother's and somebody new to take over anything financial. Commenter 3. You are not being unreasonable. It is 50-50 or nothing, but I would probably walk away from a guy that lives at home with mommy at 36. Just say in reply, to be fair, when he got divorced, he left his ex-wife the house because he had someplace to go and she didn't. But at the same time, I busted my ass, and I was out of my parents' house within a couple of months of being divorced. Commenter 4. Nope, NTA, he's a hobosexual. He wants out of his mom's because she's told him to get out. He wants to move in with you, in your home, so you can take care of him. Plus, now he's there, there'll be sex more often. You should break up now. He's not financially stable. Bra's pushing to move in too soon. And he's looking for help with his kids. Stories number 20. My 29F ex-boyfriend 32M moved out with his daughter 6F. I am devastated and don't know what to do. I am pretty sure I already know the answer to this question. but I am wondering if anyone has been in a similar situation before and can give me any advice. Backstory. I met my ex 5 years ago when I was about to be 24 and he was 27. He was the single father to a 1-year-old daughter, Sarah. The mother of his child had passed away when she was only 3 months old. I was only 24 and weary about getting involved with a man with a kid, but we really clicked. As he was his daughter's primary caregiver, I met her pretty early on in our relationship. I never knew if I even wanted to have children, but Sarah really changed things for me. We eventually moved in together, and I have been helping raise Sarah since. My ex worked a lot, and I was still a student, so Sarah and I spent a lot of time together when she was young. Once I graduated, I was able to work remotely, so when Sarah is not in school, I am typically the one taking care of her. We are incredibly close. Unfortunately, things began going south with my ex about 6 months ago. His work schedule is really hard on me, and I struggled with the amount of time we were able to see each. I know that sounds selfish. I think my nagging became too much for him, and over the course of 6 months it feels like I really pushed him away. Over the weekend, he sat me down and told me that he is not in love with me anymore, and he doesn't think he can continue our relationship. That is a whole other issue that I am dealing with. I mean, we live together and raise a child together, and now everything is flipped upside down. As upset as I am about this breakup, my main concern is Sarah. I truly do consider her my child. I mean, I have been the closest thing to her mother for the last 5 years. She doesn't know anything but me. My heart physically hurts. I asked my ex what would happen with her, and said that he hopes I would still be part of her life, and of course I want that. I just don't know how to even go about it. How do you co-parent with your ex when you're not technically a parent? I guess my biggest concern is him moving away with her and me not having any rights, or him getting a new girlfriend and deciding it's easier without his ex being so close with his daughter. I am just stressed to the max right now, Reddit. I have to find a place to live and basically restructure my entire life, but all I can think about is being able to be in this little girl's life forever. Is there any way I can make that happen? Sorry for all the rambling. Thanks for reading if you made it this far. TLDR, my ex broke up with me and wants me to remain in his daughter's life. However, I am terrified for the future. Comments OP replying to a deleted comment. I know I totally feel you and thanks for your input. Those are my other fears. What if he does get married and she gets a stepmom and she bonds with her and is over me? I also am worried about seeing him with another girl, but that mainly my own jealousy, and I think I could work through it for Sarah. I consider just telling him it'd be easier for a clean break, because maybe that would be easier for Sarah, but at the same time I am all she's ever known. We've spent more time together than her and her father these last 5 years, and I am scared she'll be mad at him and hurt and not understand hell. I am mad and hurt. I don't want her feeling this way ever. Sorry. I'm just putting my thoughts into words and I am getting more nervous. Commenter 1, you don't have any legal rights to her. The only way to get them is if your ex agrees to let you adopt her. At this point, I'd guess that's not on the table. Please realize, as heartbreaking as it is, chances are there will come a time when you will be pushed to the back burner. There is little you can do about this. I think certainly trying to stay in her life is good. And if you see the writing on the wall, for her sake, do what you can to ease your way out instead of disappearing. Do you think your ex would be amiable to going to Family L counseling to get a professional opinion on how to structure this? As a true life story, my kids bonded with their dad's second wife quite a bit. She was in their lives from 2-5. She left one day and never contacted them again. To this day, 5 years later, they still bring her up and are clearly hurt. This is with 2 involved parents in place. My heart breaks for you and your little girl. Reply. Maybe family counseling is good. Your comment breaks my heart. The last thing I ever want to do is disappear and have Sarah thinking that I didn't love and care about her. I truly consider her my child, and don't know if I will have any others. I think that maybe my best bet is to figure out how to peacefully transition out of her life, but even typing that makes me feel like I can't breathe. How do you spend all your waking hours thinking about, worrying about, and caring for a child for 5 years and then you have to just walk away? It feels like this isn't real life yet. Commenter 2. So my cousin was in this situation some time ago. She basically was raising her boyfriend's 2 kids because he was a shitty parent. They were together for years, but she finally got sick of him and left. She felt bad about the kids though because they called her mom and loved her. She tried to call them and take them out when she could so that they could keep in contact. Now she is married and has her own kids. but is still important to these kids, now adults. One of the girls just had baby, and my cousin was the person she called when she had questions about her pregnancy, and my cousin was there when her kid was born. You won't be able to be her mom because you aren't her mom. You should still be there for her like an aunt or a close family friend. Hopefully she understands you care and wants to keep in touch with you. Reply, thank you. I want to always be there for her, and I will always be around when she needs me no matter how this goes down. I logically understand that I'm not her mother, and that I have no legal rights to her and need to step back. But when I actually think about doing that, it breaks me. It's hard to act like a family friend when I feel like her mother. I just need to deal with it, I guess. Commenter 3. These questions can only be answered by the child's father. Once you've had time to calm down and deal with your life change, meet with him in person. Get coffee or something with him and talk about what he'd be okay with involving Sarah. This will be your opportunity to ask any and all questions. Consider bringing up legal adoption even if you want. This would be the best time to figure it all out. Reply. I want to sit down and have a talk about the long term with him. I will bring up legal adoption. And now I'm wishing I would have a few years ago, honestly. We had discussed marriage in the future and I had just assumed we'd always be together. Or I'd adopt her after we were married. But I should have pushed for it sooner. Thank you for your advice. Commenter 4. I understand your fear. He says he hopes you would still be part of her life, but you have no idea what that means. And frankly, it's easy to say. I think you're going to have to go through a big transition here. It's important for him and Sarah to establish a new life and a new routine. And it'll be confusing for Sarah if things change too frequently. I kinda doubt that your ex will agree to let Sarah stay with you every other weekend or something. Probably you'll be more like a friend who will ask to hang out with Sarah, and he will say yes or no. I think if your ex is hesitant about that level of relationship, you should probably tell him that if he doesn't want you to have a relationship with Sarah, you can't make him. And if he wants you out of his life completely, maybe it's best to make a clean break. As much as you would hate that, on the other hand, if you and your ex are talking about you having a much bigger role than that, I think you should ask for some kind of rights to go with it. Ask that you be allowed to legally become Sarah's mother by adopting her. Reply. Truly, I would love to adopt her and get to be a consistent part of her life. I just have no idea how that conversation will even go since the breakup. I really wish I would have asked for that sooner. I am not sure exactly what his idea of Sarah and I's relationship is in the future. He wants me in her life, but IDK, if he wants me around to that extent, I just need to talk to him, I guess. It's not like we had a huge blow-up and we still speak civilly. I just don't know about the future. Update. Hey guys. So I just wanted to update some of the people who commented and gave me some insight. All of your comments were really appreciated and definitely helped me think. So for the last week my ex has been staying with family when he's not at work. And we have been sharing time with Sarah. We met up this weekend to talk about everything and our life plan. He basically said that he does still love me, but that his schedule is just not something that can change for him anytime soon. I am trying to be understanding and supportive, because I do want to be with him and Sarah. We are going to look into counseling for us as a couple, and also family counseling for the three of us. I did bring up legal adoption of Sarah. I was shocked when he said he was thinking of the same thing. He said that no matter what happens with us as a couple, he always wants me to be a parental figure to Sarah. We had both hoped that someday I would adopt her. We just didn't see us breaking up or it becoming an issue. I am so glad we are on the same page about that. I am over the moon and we're going to meet with a lawyer on Friday to get the ball rolling on that. I am hoping that this relationship can be saved, because I really do feel like I have a family with them. My #1 priority throughout this has been Sarah, and I can't even explain how happy I am that I will get to legally be her parent. I know I won't ever be her mother, but I'm glad that we will be together no matter what. Thanks, Reddit. Sorry this is kind of all over the place. We're still figuring everything out, but I wanted to update TLDR. We are going to start couples and family counseling, as well as beginning the process for legal adoption. Edit. Thank you so much for all your comments. This got bigger than I expected. Thanks for all the kind words. To people think that I am being taken advantage of for free childcare, please realize that I've happily cared for Sarah for the last 5 years and have no problem continuing to do so. To whoever gilded me for this, thank you so much. Comments. Commenter 1. This is a good update. I really hope everything works out for the both of you. I'm so happy you talked about adopting Sarah and he agreed. Good luck with everything, OP. Commenter 2. That's delightful. And amazingly mature and respectful of everyone. Hey, we might need to break up, but please adopt my daughter. Commenter 3. If you legally adopt Sarah but he maintains custody, would you be required to pay child support? Reply: that's a good question that I am hoping to have answered when I meet with the lawyer. Commenter 4: yes, the answer is yes. Commenter 5: I want to give you a little bit of a reality check. This work schedule thing being too busy and you nagging him thing is an excuse. While it might be valid, he might be tired of your nagging. It sounds like the three of you have a family together. You're all but married in everything but name and legality. I've recently started working 7 days a week, 60-75 hours. It's necessary right now. My family wants to make a cross-country move, and I want to make sure we have a massive cushion of finances to move on. I'm busy as hell, but I'd never divorce my wife because of it. He moved out. Either your nagging was off the charts annoying or there's something else going on here. You might want to consider that before you devote a bunch of time in relationship counseling trying to salvage this. Reply: I do see where you're coming from. To shed a little more perspective on our relationship since it was vague in both posts. My ex works in a field that has him out of town for anywhere between 3 days to 3 weeks a month. The traveling is also pretty random. He can find out he'll be gone for 3 weeks less than a week in advance sometimes. He could change things, or not go, but he is a people pleaser and he is good at what he does. So he goes and I get lonely without him. I know that doesn't give me an excuse, but it's hard to be away from him so much. Maybe I am too clingy. I don't know. When he is in town, he is working 10-14-hour days, and when he comes home, he is exhausted, totally understandable. But when I only see him for an hour to eat and then he's off to bed, it's like he's not there. I love this man, and I could deal with this for a while, but not forever. He loves his job though, and he doesn't see this schedule changing anytime soon. He says that he loves me too, and that he does want to make me a priority, but it's hard for him too. Moved out was extreme. He really just took some clothes and has been staying with family. We've been in touch, and I do believe he loves me, but he said it got to a point where coming home didn't feel relaxing because I would either be trying to cram any activity I could into the small amount of time we had together, or I was moping because he was leaving again soon. All of that is true, and I want to work on it. It's just hard. Mini updates from OOP's comment history, which seem to suggest they stayed together. Years later, reply: I would venture that it doesn't have a ton to do with how much money you make, and a lot more to him coming home from a long day and seeing you still in your PJs. Even if you did work a hard day, I work remotely, and make very close to what my fiancé makes, and this is a discussion we've had several times, and still have occasionally. Working remotely isn't for everyone, and not everyone will ever have an opportunity to do it, so they don't understand it. It's not your fault but it's definitely worth talking through if it is important to you. What I do is explain to him my tasks and deadlines and the pressure I'm feeling. I explain that no, I can't do all the laundry, dishes, childcare while I'm at home because I also have a job to do. It might not solve all your problems, but just explaining what I do all day, every day has definitely helped us curb his jealousy. Commenter 2. In addition to your points about WFH, most workplaces won't allow you to WFH if you don't have childcare arrangements. Reply: true. Luckily my employer didn't. Before our kid was in school, she was home with me 3 days a week while I worked and was in daycare too. That was a constant fight on why I couldn't just look after her all 5. But I would have 100% lost my job and close to half our income. I honestly think sometimes working remotely is harder because you really have to be disciplined and have good time management. Stories number 21. Found out my F19 manager M29 has an after-work podcast where he talks about his employees. No, you're not reading the title wrong. I thought my friend John was pulling my leg when he told me, but he recently found out and told me about it because I was mentioned in said podcast. For background, this is an office job, and I am interning as a phone rep mostly while also in college. John showed me the podcast that someone showed him after finding it, and that's how I found out. Long story short, it's one of our managers, Josh, and his friend on the podcast, and his friend doesn't work at the company. He doesn't solely talk about his employees on the podcast. He also does sports politics. But the segment where he did was about work stories related to his job, and I'll refrain from the actual title for obvious reasons. One of the clips John showed me was about a girl who went on maternity leave, and the girl who replaced her temporarily, and he made jokes comparing them using their first names, and even called her replacement retard. However, the clip about me involved my Instagram. Long story short, I haven't used Instagram in years, and my last post was literally 4 years ago when OOP was in high school and 15. Maybe I should have had it private, and I've since deleted it this week on the podcast. He talked about how some of the managers follow each and some of the employees, but that there were a few he didn't follow that led him to search them to learn more about his team, and that's how he came across mine. He said I had a hidden talent of dance from high school that I didn't tell him about, and he joked it was because I didn't want to be hit on. He also said my boyfriend must be happy with my flexibility, even though I'm single, and his friend said that that was the reason I posted, and that my face wasn't doing it. Josh also joked about if I was still flexible, and his friend said to drop something to have me bend down. Josh is a jokester at work, but I was floored by his video. It's on YouTube, and while it doesn't show his face, his name is in the description, and my friend wants to address it with HR after telling the mother who was on maternity leave. However, he's not sure if there's anything else we should do beforehand besides having numbers when we go in that he thinks will be important, and he wants us to go in together. So here's my question. Are we handling this correctly? And is there anything else we should do beforehand to get our ducks in a row? Perhaps even legally, such as consulting a lawyer. First update. As I'm writing this, I'm no longer at the company. My coworker and I went to HR according to the advice we received, and we used a YouTube downloader to download the videos specifically mentioning employees in case they'd be deleted upon him learning of a potential investigation. I also made sure to tell them that the dance videos he commented about me were from when I was much younger, and we also mentioned his derogatory comments about the coworker on maternity leave. We gave them links along with a thumb drive containing copies of the videos we downloaded, and we felt like it went fine at the time. We only received one follow-up meeting afterwards to let us know that they spoke to the manager about it, and that meeting was given separately to my coworker and I. The videos were also deleted around that time, and the manager was never fired, at least when I was there for a few more months. The follow-up meeting was the last update we got before months of radio silence, but my ex-coworker and I have a guess as to why. All of the managers, including the 2 HR workers at our office, are tight, and they all often go out for sushi after close in the same plaza as our office too. They also follow each other on social media, although the manager's podcast was never linked to his personal social from what we saw before going to HR. So we weren't exactly expecting much when they're practically friends and post Instagram photos together, including the HR managers with them too. Months went by with no updates following the follow-up, and said podcast manager began to treat me somewhat differently, like being short with me or giving me side eyes too. Even the mother on maternity leave made a complaint after we told her about his comment. But again, nothing came from it to our knowledge. I eventually put in my 2 weeks, and that was pretty much it. His podcast channel is still up and posts new episodes, but nothing pertaining to work coworker stories from when I last checked. My coworker friend said he wouldn't be surprised if the other managers already knew about the podcast given how tight they were. I began looking for other work around the time we initially visited HR because he really came off as a creep. There was another comment from the video about me that I forgot to add, but he said that he should offer a prize for whoever had the best split at the annual Christmas party, as a way to see if I still had them. They play fun games at the Christmas party, and the whole thing just felt gross to me. I had already left the company by the time of the party, but it's creepy just knowing that a manager I thought was completely normal could be such a creep. New update. One of my biggest regrets from my old job was not getting legal advice before talking to HR. Some suggested going to HR instead, and my parents did too. I took their advice because I was 19 at the time. But now I regret not following my own instinct. Perhaps it wouldn't have gone to court. But a lawyer could have offered better advice on how to approach HR and potentially receive some sort of settlement, as some stated. The reason I'm thinking about it again is because of a new video Josh posted on his podcast that my ex-coworker told me about. Josh and his buddy made a video about a new job he landed before leaving the office I used to work at. And in the episode, he reflected on some things from his previous job too. He opened up about why the Work Stories segment stopped, and how someone complained to HR about it. He said that Work Stories would continue at his new place, but that they'd have fake names so no one could accuse him of anything. Despite saying he wouldn't go into full detail about the HR incident, he said that someone got offended about how he said he looked up the social media of his employees to learn more about them in a since-deleted episode. He also said some people popped up randomly, like how Instagram suggests people you should follow. He also said that people shouldn't be offended when people see their posts, because they shared it to the world. So if they didn't want anyone to see it, they never should have posted in the first place. And while he didn't mention me by name, he referred to me as the girl who did dance and complained to HR about him. He also pointed out how I later left the company and was always quiet, which was why he looked me up. He said that his comments about me were a joke and that I couldn't take it as such. He also said he went along with his idea at the Christmas party, where each manager suggests a game with a prize to see who had the best split, and I didn't attend because I had already left the company. The fact that he was allowed to do the game that he mentioned in the video, I downloaded and gave to HR, where he wanted to see if I could do the splits, shows the lack of seriousness regarding my complaint unless they somehow forgot or didn't watch the full video. Josh's entire video was making excuses for what happened, and the only lesson he learned was to make future names anonymous for work stories. He also said my dance posts from high school were thirst traps, and that I used it against him with HR. In light of his recent video vaguely mentioning me, I reached out to a counselor at my job to ask if it'd be appropriate to reach out to his new job that he actually mentioned in the podcast about what happened at his previous job with the downloaded proof of him sexualizing me and calling that other employee Red from his now deleted podcast, and she said it'd be appropriate. She also pointed out how he openly sexualized me for the splits and proceeded to have a competition about them at the Christmas party. So there's enough there to hopefully prevent it from happening somewhere else after I try. My friend who alerted me to the video is also open to backing my claim. I also want to add something about how tight the managers were at my old job. 2 of those managers are now engaged as confirmed via social media. Most of the managers often went out to eat after shifts at a sushi place in our plaza, but you'd see photos of them together at other things on their social media with the lead HR manager too. I'm glad to no longer work there because it felt impossible to receive support when they're practically close friends. Stories number 22, Tifu, by offering my physiotherapist a handshake and instantly regretting it. I've been dealing with shoulder and arm pain, so I went to a clinic for physiotherapy. My previous therapist was a sweet woman. She had left, and this was my first session with a senior male doctor. During the session, he massaged my neck and asked where it hurts. After a few seconds, I mentioned that the pain went all the way down to my fingers. And he snapped, "Yeah, I can't do it down there, can I?" The neck is the root. That's why we studied for doctor. It felt sarcastic and unnecessarily defensive, and I got a little irritated. I tried asking a few simple questions, but he gave short, curt answers. When the session ended, I thought I'd keep things polite and maybe break the ice. I stood up, smiled lightly, and said, "Thank you, doctor," holding my hand out for a handshake, and then nothing. His eyes flicked to my hand. He gave a tiny nod, but didn't move his hand at all. I froze for a second, thinking, oh no, he's ignoring me. This is so embarrassing. I pulled my hand back while I noticed his hand slightly lift, like 2 inches right as I turned to leave. I felt every millisecond of that awkward tension, like we were both caught in this weird silent standoff. I couldn't stop replaying it in my head. Now I have 3 more sessions with him, and I don't know how to act. I don't want to be cold or rude, but I also don't want to give him the chance to make me feel awkward like that again. How do you handle a situation like this without letting it ruin your confidence? TLDR. Offered my hand to my physiotherapist to be friendly. He didn't shake, and now I'm obsessing over the embarrassment.